Chapter 920. Blow up Star Lord. These incomparably domineering words lingered in Guo Ping's mind. This was indeed a special plan that Guo Ping couldn't imagine. But how could it be easy to beat Star Lord? Let alone blow him up. Was this really possible? Guo Ping couldn't imagine it. Although he hadn't been on Divine Dao Star for long, he had personally witnessed Star Lord's brutality. This was a tyrant comparable to the god of destruction. As long as this tyrant set his sights on you, it was all over. Star Lord has done a lot of inhumane things to expand Divine Dao Star all these years. Every time he thought of this, Guo Ping couldn't help trembling. Most of the information was obtained from the alien news. Translating the alien language into the human language was an extremely long translation process. Guo Ping had felt the fear that came from the depths of his soul countless times during the translation. Every time he completed the expansion of the planet, this Star Lord of Divine Dao Star would announce it to the world with a proud and arrogant expression on his face. He was swearing an oath to everyone. He was the god of the universe. An omnipotent expert. Guo Ping's body trembled. Wang Ling could clearly sense that Guo Ping's eyes had lost all color in that instant. Feudal resistance. When he said these words, there didn't seem to be any trace of bravery in them, and he knelt on the ground as if all his anger had been vented. Star Lord of Divine Dao Star has never failed in capturing planets. Even those who struggled to escape were swallowed up one by one. Guo Ping said gloomily, I once saw the destruction of an alien civilization with my own eyes. It was a population of more than 20 billion. In order to escape Divine Dao Star's pursuit, 20 billion people worked together to stop the planet from spinning. They also installed hundreds of thousands of thrusters on the side of the planet so that it could escape Divine Dao Star's pursuit. Speaking up to this point, Guo Ping smiled bitterly. So, even if you can stop Divine Dao Star's clone from expanding in the Earth's core, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape forever. If Star Lord's plan fails, he'll directly fly Divine Dao Star over and swallow up the entire solar system. Even if Earth has the Wandering Earth plan. With Lu Zixin's imagination, Wu Jing won't be able to escape. Everyone, after being trapped on Divine Dao Star for so many years, Guo Ping's last bit of patience was about to run out. When he saw Wang Ling and the others in the tavern, who also spoke Mandarin, he felt like he was grasping at straws of life. Previously, he had intercepted a secret report which indicated that Star Lord would capture the strongest person on Earth and imprison him here. Guo Ping had already made preparations early on. He brought Wang Ling and the others into his base, and the moment Wang Ling turned off the illusion, Guo Ping saw Dopey Guo. Although this was only a distant nephew of his, Guo Ping still began to miss the feeling of home. He began to yearn for the smell of his wife and children. Guo Ping wanted to let go of everything. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to be able to go back. Even if Earth was cut off and enslaved, it had nothing to do with him. Even if he died, he wanted to see his wife and children at the last moment. Super Chen, Hero Guo and Little Peanut were stupefied. They were stunned by the multifaceted sensibility of this NPC in the game. How could an NPC in a game be so immersive? They whispered to each other in low voices. Super Chen, Dopey, the Easter egg your uncle planted, was too good. It sounded like it was real, but I'm afraid it wasn't. I almost thought it wasn't a game anymore. Little Peanut, do you really have an uncle who works at the Research Institute? Hero Guo nodded. Indeed. My dad told me before that I have a distant uncle who does scientific research. This is probably an adaptation of the story of the uncle who works at the Research Institute by my gaming uncle. The script sounds very realistic. Wang Ling, for a very long time, the base was silent. Super Chen nudged Fang Xing and said in a low voice, don't just stand there. The NPC is feeling very desperate now. At a time like this, we should say something encouraging. That's the best way to advance the game plot. Don't be fooled by his look of despair and helplessness. In fact, he's just like a person who sends a text message to his friends and relatives before jumping off a building. They lack care and care. Usually, as long as they feel warmth, they'll quickly recover. Fang Xing stepped forward and patted Guo Ping on the shoulder. Don't give up, we still have hope. Guo Ping's lifeless face instantly glowed with new light. Really? Kami, you wrote this game script, didn't you? Hero Guo couldn't help exclaiming. Everyone, in any case, it's better to give it a try than to sit and wait for death. Bai Qiao said, know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will emerge victorious in every battle. Tell us as much as you can about Star-Lord, this lady's fur has been itching recently. As soon as she said this, everyone looked at Bai Qiao strangely. Seeming to realize that her words just now were ambiguous, Bai Qiao blushed and hurriedly corrected herself. You perverts. I was talking about a hogue. What were you thinking? Everyone, as if sensing the awkwardness of the atmosphere, Guo Ping coughed softly and said, everyone should have seen that a large portion of Divine Tao Star's lizard men are lizard men. But the truth is that this group of people aren't lizard men, but the legendary dragon people. On Divine Tao Star, they are also known as the Divine Dragons. This planet is ruled by the Divine Dragons. Star-Lord looks like a human, but that's only in human form, he's essentially a Divine Dragon. Why does he look like a human? Hero Guo asked. This is actually why I advocated peace talks before. Because this Star-Lord actually likes Earth very much, and even admires humans. That's why he turned himself into a human. Currently, there are a lot of plastic surgery parlors on Divine Tao Star that have launched facial plastic surgery programs, and internet celebrity faces are very popular here. Since he likes Earth, why did he do this? Wouldn't it be better to leave Earth alone? Do you know why there are so many strange monsters on Divine Tao Star? Guo Ping said, each monster represents an alien civilization. In this universe, there are strange creatures called sick people. They think differently from normal people when it comes to the things they like. After swallowing Earth, human genes will also be recorded on Divine Tao Star, and the first pair of humans will be born here. For Star-Lord, this is nothing more than a captive game of keeping the things he likes on a planet. Chapter 921. Star-Lord of Divine Tao Star. Male. A member of the Divine Dragon clan. He was a sickly person. This was all the information he had learned from Guo Ping regarding this Star-Lord. There were only two ways to fight a sickly person. 1. The sickly person likes you accepts lives happily with the sickly person. 2. The sickly person likes you rejects you dies with a chopper, but it was very clear that Star-Lord's sickly person was of the highest level. He wouldn't even take the initiative to say that he liked you, as long as it was something he liked, he would take it for himself. So Wang Ling could tell that if this matter wasn't properly resolved in the end, a new Adam and Eve would reappear on Divine Tao Star. But whether it's a divine dragon person or a little dragon person, let's test our hands first, Bai Qiao said. Since Miss Bai has made up her mind, I will naturally fully support you. But remember, you have to be quick, we don't have much time left. Guo Ping frowned deeply. Manipulating his wristwatch, he spread out a map in the air. Star-Lord's divine palace is marked with an asterisk. I bribed a lizard man to create a disguise. Should we sneak in and assassinate him? Do you want Jing Ke to assassinate the king of Qin? No need to go through so much trouble. Bai Qiao shook her head and crossed her arms. We've always preferred a head-on confrontation. Guo Ping, at that moment, he looked at the youngster with dead fish eyes. It was this youngster who had said in his mind at the very beginning, beat up Star-Lord. But this youngster really looked ordinary, forget it, it wasn't like Guo Ping couldn't understand why people said that youngsters were frivolous. In any case, attacking Star-Lord would ultimately depend on this Miss Bai Qiao. She was the most powerful person on Earth. As for these high school students who had been dragged into Divine Tao Star along with him, Guo Ping hadn't counted on them at all. What could high school students do? 3 years of college entrance exams and 5 years of simulations were the way to go. At the same time, all the cultivators on Earth above the Soul Formation stage felt an energy fluctuation they had never seen before in the sky. This was a power they had never seen before. In Mountain Pavilion, General Yi was playing chess with the head of state. Princeps placed a black chess piece, and the chessboard split into several pieces in an instant. Oldie, that's not very kind of you. Don't buy a magic chessboard just because you don't want to lose. If you lose, it will automatically explode. I didn't put that much force into the move I just placed. You've misunderstood, Your Excellency. Although this chessboard belongs to Dong Qin, it has nothing to do with magic. Your Excellency should have sensed a special fluctuation in the sky. General Yi raised his head. He was dressed in white exercise clothes with a red streamer around his waist. There's something wrong with this fluctuation. The head of state frowned, then turned to Steward Tang next to him. Tang Chen, call Huaxiao Alliance and the Office of Strategic Deception and ask if they're conducting experiments. Inside the Magic Equipment Research Institute, all the academicians were on standby. Wang Ming and Zhai Yin swiftly rushed to the scene to direct the repairs. Just 5 minutes ago, all the monitoring instruments in the Research Institute suddenly went haywire. This was something that had never happened before. Even when the gate between worlds descended, only a tenth of the dashboard was damaged due to abnormal energy fluctuations. Don't panic, everyone. Follow Plan 1 and stabilize the data on the dashboard first. Wang Ming gave instructions with both hands in his trouser pockets. With his appearance, order started to return to the scene. The appearance of the most powerful brain naturally had the power to stabilize morale. But the truth was that Wang Ming's hands in his pockets were sweaty. He had just spoken to Dean Qi on the phone. They weren't the only ones in the research institute. At the same time, research institutes around the world were experiencing the same abnormalities, and several satellites from neighboring countries had fallen. This was an invasion of an unknown energy source. Wang Ming narrowed his eyes and stared at the dashboard with all kinds of erratic pointers, his expression extremely grave. The situation was very bad. Even worse was that he had just pinpointed Wang Ling's position. His stupid Oduaduo's coordinates were actually at the Office of Strategic Deception's new internet cafe. The world was about to be destroyed, but he was still playing games. With Guoping's remote assistance and Bai Qiao leading the way, everyone took Guoping's special alien aircraft to Star-Lord's Divine Palace. Guoping had retrieved this aircraft from the junkyard and then repaired it with the planet's energy, so it wouldn't arouse the suspicion of any monsters when it flew in the air. It's time to fight the boss already? The plot was developing faster than Super Chen had expected as he piloted the aircraft forward. In the past, Super Chen had often played flight simulation games, and now he was unexpectedly stable in the alien aircraft. Hero Gua and Little Peanut sat in the front seats. So, whether or not we can clear the game in the end depends on Boss Bai. But why did my uncle leave an Easter egg for Boss Bai to fight Star-Lord? Little Peanut said. It's obvious that the game designer is a lolicon. In our group, only Boss Bai is a girl. So Boss Bai was the chosen one, Hero Gua replied. Until now, the three of them still didn't know that this wasn't a game, and that everything was real. But Bai Qiao still didn't point it out. Wang Ling sat obediently at the back of the ship. Divine Dao Star didn't have any spirit chi, but this didn't stop Bai Qiao and Fang Xing from showing off their prowess, since Wang Ling himself was a mobile spring. Wang Ling looked like he was resting with his eyes closed, but in fact he was thinking about what kind of buffs he should give to the people in the aircraft. In the end, that Star-Lord was a difficult person to deal with. Naturally, this battle couldn't be taken lightly. So, as the aircraft approached Star-Lord's Divine Palace, Super Chen and the others suddenly realized that there were many colorful halos around them. What's this? Hero Gua asked. It looks like a buff. Super Chen said. Little Peanut swallowed. Is it the legendary resupply before a great battle? At that moment, Wang Ling was silently reciting an incantation at the back of the aircraft. Supreme Strength, Selfless Halo, Super Godly Wisdom Magic Halo, Holy Supreme Barrier, Indomitable Heart of the Strong, Smelly Shameless Drag, Thicker Skin, Iron Wall Halo, Wasteland Milk Cavalry, Distant Eye Poison Milk Barrier that kills on touch, Dong Qin, the world's most powerful blinding power. Crushing Gravity that causes you to gain 1.5 kilograms during festivals, Heavenly Emperor Huang's Grave Disco Dance, Vigorous Regeneration Magic Halo. Chapter 922. In the blink of an eye, more than 30 halos stacked on top of each other like the 5 rings of the Olympic Games. Everyone in the aircraft had their bodies clasped tightly together. With so many magic halos on them, even if Super Chen and the others were just Foundation Establishment high school students, their current battle strength couldn't be underestimated. Although Super Chen had already expected that there would be supplies before a big battle, he hadn't expected this game to be so ***king, user-friendly. This was giving them way too many supplies. It looks like this game is still a trial version. It's more important to have fun playing it. Super Chen's smile gradually became more and more insolent as he piloted the aircraft. He hadn't expected this game to actually be a decompression game. I feel like I've become very strong. Little Peanut looked at his hands in disbelief. This is quite a lot of supplies. Master of Dopey couldn't help exclaiming. It felt like they were besieging a motorboat with 10 aircraft carriers. The main city district is up ahead, and we're about to reach Star-Lord's divine palace. Guoping's voice came from the aircraft, and Super Chen steadily piloted the aircraft forward. As soon as they entered the main city area, several lizard men riding wyverns chased after them. They shouted in divine Dao Star language, but this time, everyone understood them. The aircraft was equipped with simultaneous interpretation software, which had also been designed by Guoping. Warning. You've broken into the main city district by speeding. Please stop the aircraft immediately for inspection. One of the lizard men riding wyverns in front raised his silver spear and pointed it at the aircraft. In a flash, a huge shockwave erupted from the tip of the spear and shot toward the aircraft. Super Chen skillfully dodged the attack in the aircraft, and even did a 360-degree turn in the air. No matter how he turned, he didn't miss anything. Wang Ling, who was sitting in the back, was also thinking that Super Chen might be a good immortal boat pilot in the future. In front of them, a golden palace as large as a mountain appeared in front of them. The palace towered into the clouds, and there was an endless divine light lingering over the palace. The stone pillars were engraved with characters that no one had ever seen before, and there were several divine chains hanging down from the top, firmly fixing the entire palace to the ground like a tent. That was the most shocking part of it all. This was because such a huge golden palace was actually floating in the air. As long as the divine chains were retracted, the Star-Lord Divine Palace could change its position at will. The lizard men who were in charge of intercepting the spacecraft were unable to stop it. The shockwaves from their silver spears barely hit the spacecraft. Even if they did, they were bounced back by the spacecraft. Everyone in the aircraft was buffed, and the aircraft was affected by the radiation of the buff at the same time. It also had the effects of various halos. In front of the Golden Palace, there were a few lizard men that looked completely different from the soldiers in charge of intercepting them. They had dragon wings on their backs and no dragon tails. Even their auras were different from the lizard men riding on flying dragons. This Earthling really doesn't know what's good for him. He even dares to barge into Star-Lord's divine palace. Our Star-Lord has already captured their strongest person with a great divine ability. Sooner or later, Earth will be in our divine Dao Star's pocket, and humans will soon be enslaved by us divine dragons. These people are just courting death by barging in. I don't think it's a big deal to be the strongest. Who is the strongest person in this aircraft? I heard it's that girl, the one with white hair. The rest of the Earthlings are just trash who got dragged into this. Everyone in the aircraft was covered in halos, and even the 6 senses of Super Chen and the other Foundation Establishment cultivators were magnified countless times over. As soon as these lizard men commanders spoke, everyone's eyes instantly focused on them. Wang Ling didn't even have to make a move, but these lizard men commanders were already shaken out of the air by this formidable spiritual pressure. What kind of formidable deterrence was this? The lizard men commanders knelt on the ground and looked up at the sky. Each of them was stupefied. That wasn't right. Star-Lord had evaluated that white-haired girl's battle strength, and it was impossible for her to have this kind of terrifying pressure. Godly power was more than 10 times denser than spirit power, which was also why Su Xing hadn't been able to break through the godly power barrier before. If he didn't use a spell that exceeded the density of godly power, he wouldn't be able to damage the barrier at all. It was obvious that Wang Ling had also noticed this. So he had been very calm from the beginning. Because he just needed to use a higher density of spirit power. But Wang Ling was the only one who could compress spirit energy like this. This required the caster to be able to precisely control the density of each spirit energy molecule absorbed from the spirit chi, and then compress the spirit energy molecules into a ball of spirit power. General Yi's Palm's Sword and the Old Devil's Chaos Ball were both high-density spirit power spells, but compared with Wang Ling's current compression technique, they weren't worth mentioning. So, after Wang Ling adjusted the density of spirit power, he cast the boundless halo of this high-density spirit power on everyone in the aircraft. In just a split second, the natural order was subverted. This powerful spiritual pressure caused all the lizardmen commanders to fall on the spot. The halo of crushing gravity that makes you gain 3 kilograms every festive festival affected them deeply. In disbelief, the lizardmen commanders found it difficult to even lift their eyelids, and even their eyelashes drooped down. Anyone who trespasses on Star-Lord's divine palace will be killed without mercy. At that moment, a golden-scaled divine dragon lizard arrived. He was wearing light armor from head to toe, and his aura was much higher than that of the lizardmen commander kneeling on the ground. It's the left protector of the front hall. Sensing this aura, one of the commanders below was delighted. Who was the left protector of the front hall of Star-Lord's divine palace? He was the gatekeeper who guarded the entire divine palace. As soon as he appeared, his aura swept across the area, as if forming a counterbalance. Inside the aircraft, everyone's eyes stared at him. A few seconds later, the commander on the ground screamed as the left protector of the front hall fell from the air and hit him, knocking him out on the spot. On the ground, the left protector of the front hall covered his face. This was too shameful. He hadn't expected that he wouldn't be cool for more than 3 seconds. He actually couldn't withstand the oppressive aura of this bunch of earthlings at all. Trespassers on Star-Lord's divine palace, I want to see what kind of trash you are. At that moment, another person flew out of Star-Lord's divine palace. It's the left protector of the front hall. The commander was delighted again. The left protector is much stronger than me. He'll definitely be able to deal with this bunch. On the ground, the left protector was full of confidence. Then, this left protector of the front hall was also stared at by the earthlings in the aircraft. At that moment, Wang Ling looked down and saw that the most miserable commander had already been buried alive. Above the commander were the left protector and the right protector. Hey! What kind of monster is this? I, the left protector of the middle hall, have come to accept your challenge. Another voice rang out from Star-Lord's divine palace. F***K. There's no end to this. Super Chen patted the steering wheel. In the next moment, to avoid the suspicion that the author had faked the number of words again, he drove the aircraft directly into the palace. Sogu reading website. Chapter 923. A group of people had broken into Star-Lord's divine palace in an aircraft. For a moment, the whole of Divine Tao Star was shaken. Enslaved monsters from various planets poured into the entrance to the main city, and a dense army of lizard-man cavalry in the sky maintained order and suppressed them. This was something that had never happened before. The moment Super Chen's aircraft smashed through the fortress and broke into the divine palace, the demons from all walks of life unleashed their long-suppressed resentment. They had originally come from different planets and lived in peace and harmony. If Divine Tao Star hadn't forcibly devoured their home planet, they wouldn't have lived here and been enslaved by Star-Lord. Recalling what had happened back then, the monsters still felt a deep resentment in their hearts. In that moment, the grief of having their families torn apart and their families broken up erupted. Super Chen's crash was like the echo of a clock that had spanned centuries, shaking the hearts of the billions of monsters on Divine Tao Star. Speaking the mother tongues of their respective planets, they frantically used their strength to besiege the entrance to the main city, regardless of their gender or age. This momentum shook the Divine Dragons, the leader of Divine Tao Star's race. What do we do, sir? For a moment, the Divine Dragons were a little flustered. The outside of Star-Lord's divine palace was in chaos. The left and right guardians of the front and middle halls had been knocked out one after another, and the invaders' aircraft had crashed into the rear hall, smashing through several barriers one after another. But that wasn't all they had to deal with. Outside the main city, monsters were besieging it from all directions. This was the drawback of plundering planets for a long time. Although they had devoured the energy of those planets, because of cultural differences, most of the monsters were more attached to their mothers. Once a riot broke out, it would be difficult to stop it. The captain of the Divine Dragons, a lizard man in golden armor, was also the commander of the Imperial army of 20 million Divine Dragons. At that moment, his expression was a little grave. Someone had broken into Star-Lord's Divine Palace, and directly crashed into it with an aircraft. This had never happened before. And it was precisely because of this unprecedented incident that the monsters were almost on the verge of losing their courage. Who would have thought? At that moment, the captain of the Divine Dragons felt very conflicted. Their race had plundered countless planets, some of which were even more powerful and formidable than Earth. Furthermore, the pattern had been the same every time. Directly enslave the strongest person on a planet, and then plunder the planet. But who would have thought that a mere Earth would cause such a mess? Sir, 20 million of us won't be able to stop them. The monsters have broken through the 18th ring of the main city. At this time, a divine dragon came to report the news. He was injured and looked miserable. What they had to face now was billions of monsters from different planets pouring in from all directions. It was unrealistic to use 20 million Imperial guards to stop them. First, set up a barrier around the 15th ring. As for the rest, don't block them. The Divine Dragon Knight captain's expression darkened, and he quickly made a decision: kill without mercy. That intruder, don't worry about those people on Earth for now. What we need to do is suppress them. The monsters on these planets were nothing but slaves. How could he allow a slave to defy his superior? Those people on Earth who dared to barge into the Star-Lord's divine palace won't be able to live for long. The Divine Dragon Knight sneered, this is a suicidal act. The Star-Lord will deal with them. With the reminder from the commander of the Imperial Guards, a reign of terror broke out on Divine Tao Star. Billions of living creatures rioted, and all the living creatures on Divine Tao Star launched a collective attack in the direction of the main city. In the base, Guoping's eyes brimmed with tears as he watched the scene on the screen. He didn't know how long he had waited for this day. All kinds of blood flowed from the living creatures of different planets, which intertwined to form a rainbow of colors that spilled over the entire street. Super Chen's aircraft was unimpeded, and there was practically no one to stop him. Countless divine dragons in Star-Lord's divine palace rode their flying dragons to the front lines to suppress the riots, and had no time to care about Super Chen and the others' movements. Furthermore, they couldn't stop them at all. The buff group piloted this old aircraft, which was also affected by the buff, on a rampage. Several divine dragon knights were killed on the spot, and even the flying dragons they were riding underground. This aircraft was really too violent, and pierced through the stomachs of the flying dragons like a knife with a strong halo and special effects, leaving the divine dragons completely speechless. Are they really Earthlings? Didn't they say that Earthlings aren't strong? The lips of many of the divine dragons twitched. Just as they were about to reach the inner hall, Super Chen parked the aircraft at Guoping's request. Next, we'll split up. Nephew Gua, you, Super Chen, Su Xiao and Feng Xing will return to the outskirts of the city to fight the commander of the Dragon Knight's Imperial Guard. The short guy in the photo who looks like Pan Chongjiang is the commander of the Imperial Guard. Remember what he looks like. Miss Bai Qiao and classmate Wang Ling will be in charge of fighting Star-Lord. Guoping directly assigned the tasks. Actually, Bai Qiao and Feng Xing had secretly discussed this with Guoping before. It was only then that Guoping realized why Super Chen and the others had been looking at him so strangely. They were completely treating him like a game character. But it was fine. Guoping didn't expose them, and directly followed Bai Qiao and Feng Xing's instructions. Bai Qiao, Feng Xing, and Guoping had already prepared the specifics beforehand. As Feng Xing had expected, Super Chen wasn't very satisfied with the tasks assigned. Why is Wang Ling going to fight the boss? We're going to kill the minions. 1. This is a random assignment. 2. Classmate Wang Ling is the mascot. Only by completing both tasks will you be considered to have cleared the game. You're the first beta testers of this game. If you can clear it, you'll get a mysterious reward, Guoping replied according to the plan they had discussed earlier. Fine. As long as there's a reward. After saying this, Super Chen instantly had no objections. And so, Wang Ling and Bai Qiao were put down on the aircraft. Fang Xing looked at Wang Ling and was a little reluctant to part with him, but he had to go with Super Chen and the others. Coupled with his combat strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to deal with the commander of the Imperial Guard with just a little guidance. Miss Bai and the mascot, good luck. Super Chen said excitedly as he piloted the aircraft. Wang Ling, just as Super Chen's aircraft left, a ray of light shot out from the inner hall up ahead in the direction of the aircraft. Bai Qiao spread out her ahog and blocked the light on the spot. In the inner hall, Star-Lord, who loved Earth culture, spoke in Mandarin which he was still figuring out. You're like the strongest inner lady on Earth? I've underestimated that lump of yours. Bai Qiao and Wang Ling were stunned. This Star-Lord even learned freaking Northeastern Chinese. But Star-Lord's words instantly put Wang Ling's heart at ease. He had initially thought that this Star-Lord was something. In the end, he hadn't expected the other party to think that Bai Qiao was the strongest. What kind of expert was she if she couldn't even tell? She had caught Bai Qiao and was making a big fuss here. Chapter 924. The person sitting on the golden throne in the middle of the hall was tall and straight, and his eyes were like lightning as he looked down. He had completely changed his appearance to that of an earthling. I've been waiting here for you for a long time, Star-Lord said. He had already mastered Earth's culture. As the atmosphere gradually turned serious, his northeastern accent switched to a normal tone. Expansion and devouring have brought about today's chaotic situation. I'd like to see how you're going to clean up after this. Bai Qiao's eyes narrowed and her pupils contracted. At the same time, she channeled her spirit energy bit by bit into the ahog on her head. Fearless resistance. As the strongest person on Earth, your battle strength is far inferior to mine. Even if you don't think about yourself, you should think about the children you've dragged into this together with you. They're just a bunch of high school students. They could have lived on Divine Dao Star, but now, because of you, they're all going to die. Star-Lord sneered a little mockingly, and the coldness on his face deepened. He sat upright on the throne, unmoving, and intense godly power shot out of his eyes to suppress Bai Qiao, making her feel an intense pressure. If it wasn't for the layers of halos around her, Bai Qiao didn't know if she would have been able to resist this heavy pressure. You're interesting, you actually refined the hair on your head into a magic artifact. Among the many planets I've plundered before, there's also a race called Mocking Star, which is quite similar to you. Are you a distant relative of theirs? After probing Bai Qiao with godly pressure, Star-Lord mocked her. Come down and fight. Bai Qiao snorted, her fighting spirit surging. I'm Star-Lord of Divine Dao Star, I'm a god. Naturally, I have to sit high and mighty on the throne. You'll never have the right to make me come down, Star-Lord said coldly. Bai Qiao's expression was calm as she chuckled. Since you're already familiar with Earth's culture, you should know that there are some things you shouldn't say. The faster you raise your flag, the faster you die. How dare you? How dare you curse Star-Lord? Next to Star-Lord, a divine dragon spoke up. This person wore a black bamboo hat and an iron mask on his face. He was Star-Lord's personal servant. In the entire Star-Lord's divine palace, apart from Star-Lord, this person's aura was the most powerful. I'm talking to your master. You pervert in an SNM mask, you're so rude. Bai Qiao's poisonous tongue didn't diminish in the slightest as she retorted with a snort. You rude and arrogant bastard. To deal with someone like you, there is no need for Sir Star-Lord to take action. The servant gritted his teeth in hatred and took off his bamboo hat. A powerful bloodline aura gushed out from his pores, and golden red patterns spread all over his body. For a moment, a dragon's roar resounded in the inner hall. The roar of the dragon god? Bai Qiao's eyes turned cold, and with a flick of her ahog, the boundless halo around her turned into a waterfall that shot out. This strike was extremely heavy, and it caused the servant to let out a blood-curdling scream. Half of his body was lacerated, and he was sent flying on the spot. Wang Ling hadn't given Bai Qiao these dozens of buffs for nothing. The unexpected pain and lethality caused this personal servant to suffer greatly. Blood sprayed out as he was sent flying, and he crashed into a palace pillar, which broke on the spot. In the end, Star-Lord frowned at this scene. The other party raised his hand, and just by shaking a finger, it was as if time had flowed backward in front of him. The servant who had been swept away recovered from his injuries and returned to his original position, and the palace pillar that had been broken was also restored to its original state. Star-Lord was a little unhappy that his servant had lost face. He frowned and stared at the servant. "Back off, useless thing." The servant's injuries had recovered, and even his memory of how he had been injured just now had disappeared. Seeing Star-Lord's anger, the servant immediately understood that he had probably been defeated just now. Bai Qiao looked at Star-Lord. "Reverse time? I'm a god, naturally I can do anything." Star-Lord played it down as he said flatly, "To control time is to control everything. Not just time, but all the Tao in the universe is in my hands. This Tao is divine Tao. Although I only have this one Tao, it can rival everything, and no one can match it. The power of divine Tao." Behind Bai Qiao, Wang Ling lowered his eyes. He had never heard of this kind of power. He knew about heavenly Tao and outer Tao. But what on earth was divine Tao? The universe was so big that there were all kinds of strange things, even Wang Ling didn't know about them. Star-Lord sat upright on his throne and smiled coldly. Compared with divine Tao, heavenly Tao and outer Tao are just a drop in the ocean. The power of my one divine Tao is equivalent to 10,000 heavenly Tao. If I develop a second divine Tao, a third divine Tao, a fourth divine Tao, who in the universe can do anything to me? This king is a genius. Comprehending divine Tao on my own is what I have now. You're too conceited." Bai Qiao took a deep breath and did her best to remain calm as Star-Lord spoke. Facing divine Tao Star-Lord, she was under unprecedented pressure. The power of divine Tao was really too fierce. One divine Tao was equivalent to 10,000 heavenly Tao, so, are you going to conquer the universe with this one divine Tao? Bai Qiao stared at Star-Lord. This king will definitely have to open a second and third divine Tao, but so far, this divine Tao alone is almost enough for me to rule the entire universe. Star-Lord laughed. "This king is a genius. If I want to cultivate, I can do so at any time. It's not as interesting as conquering the universe. You unambitious thing, you'll be done for in the future." Bai Qiao waved her ahog forward, and a beam of divine light shot into the sky from the top of her head, turning into a giant golden sword that slashed at the lofty throne. Star-Lord's eyes were cold. He sighed in his heart. Earth was really the weakest planet he had ever conquered, and this was all the strongest person could do. He was extremely disappointed. Petty tricks. You actually want to use this unsightly thing against this king? He blocked the giant golden sword with his little finger and flicked it away. The aftermath of divine Tao bombarded Bai Qiao, and even several layers of her buff were broken. Bai Qiao's ahog was shaken until it withered and split, which made her feel extremely irritated. "Are you done yet, boss?" At that moment, Bai Qiao finally couldn't help looking at Wang Ling behind her. 5 seconds left. Wang Ling looked back at Bai Qiao. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the divine Tao analysis was complete. When the aura of divine Tao erupted from Wang Ling, Star-Lord's expression finally changed, F***K. He knew there was something wrong with this dead fish eye. Chapter 925. People could never stop learning. A famous writer once said, "Man is a thinking reed." Natural selection and survival of the fittest, all things in heaven and earth abided by this principle, and so did life. Wang Ling was only 16 years old this year, and his mind hadn't matured yet, which was why he couldn't stop learning for even a moment. Now that his mind was able to grow up healthily and hadn't been led astray, it was all thanks to Father and Mother Wang's education. When all was said and done, the couple were in the field of literature, and had written so many novels in which the protagonists were Chinibu. Naturally, they knew how to let their children grow up strong and healthy in all aspects of morality, intelligence, physique, beauty, and labor. Just like now, it had taken Wang Ling dozens of seconds to analyze and master Divine Tao. I'm really a slow learner. Wang Ling was a little disappointed. He learned everything very quickly, and could grasp it in a fraction of a second. No matter how difficult the Olympiad math question was, as long as he grasped the offensive and problem-solving routines, he could almost always solve the problem in a microsecond. In the end, this Divine Tao had actually taken him dozens of seconds. Wang Ling thought he had already learned enough, but now he realized that he still needed to practice his learning ability. Dozens of seconds was too slow. Wang Ling had already decided that after this was over, he would buy a few more sets of 3-5 and go back to read them. It looked like he hadn't been practicing enough. Was it because he hadn't written enough? Wang Ling pondered in his heart. Although the characteristics of the monster pen and the goblin eraser meant that he had to master 100% of their knowledge before they could do his homework for him, on the other hand, they had also cultivated his laziness. This couldn't go on. As an outstanding young man who upheld the core values of cultivation, Wang Ling felt that he should pursue progress even more. On the other side, Divine Tao Star Lord stared at Wang Ling from his throne. If this Miss Bai Qiao hadn't pointed it out in public, he would never have thought that this youngster was the truly difficult person to deal with. He should have sensed it long ago. The magic rings on Bai Qiao didn't belong to her at all, so who had helped her add them to them? Now, Divine Tao Star Lord finally realized where the problem lay. Every time he plundered a planet, he would first determine the strongest person on that planet and imprison them on Divine Tao Star before he made his move. This time, his first target was Bai Qiao. As for Wang Ling, in Divine Tao Star Lord's view, this was someone who had been completely implicated. And this person was really only 16 years old. Cultivators could use spells and elixirs to delay their aging, but the vitality contained in their bodies would gradually fade as they grew older. This was a major indicator used by cultivators to determine a cultivator's age. Similarly, this kind of thing could not be faked. Experts could see through the vitality in a person's aura at a glance. He could sense that Wang Ling's body was brimming with vitality. It was a symbol of youth. Star Lord's eyes flickered with killing intent. He gazed at Wang Ling and said in an extremely cold voice, "One genius in this universe is enough. This high and mighty throne is only fit for this prince to enjoy." Placing his hand on the armrest, he injected godly power into the 7 colored gems embedded in the armrest. In a split second, a tremendous amount of godly power surged out in all directions with an incomparably dazzling golden light. Wang Ling stood on the spot, motionless. Hiding behind him, Bai Qiao felt a sense of security. Such overwhelming godly pressure crashed down on him like raging waves, but Wang Ling's small body was like an island in the middle of a vast ocean that didn't move at all. With a wave of his hand, he casually released another wave of godly pressure to counteract the force. Behind him, Bai Qiao was dumbstruck. There was the cry of a phoenix. Several 3-headed phoenixes actually flew out of the 7 colored gems which had been injected with godly power earlier. These were already extinct creatures, like the prehistoric vicious Kuan which Wang Zhen had raised in captivity. They were also species from the primordial era, and were now extinct. Wang Ling had only seen these creatures in the cultivation encyclopedia. Even the museum didn't have a complete display of them, and only had 3D models made from the remains of bones. If the origin bones were put on display, it was inevitable that they would be coveted by criminals. These vicious creatures could also be called divine beasts. From head to toe, they were treasures, and were even more valuable than holy beasts. Back then, the holy beast race had been eaten to the point of extinction because of a rumor. There was no telling what would happen if these divine beasts came back to the world. Wang Ling could already imagine what these guys would look like when they became food on a plate. 7 three-headed phoenixes spat out rainbow divine fire as they charged at Wang Ling. Wang Ling gazed at the palace in front of him without a ripple in his eyes. These 7 adult three-headed phoenixes had wings that were dozens of zhang long when spread open, and they had astonishing godly power. It was clear that they had been raised by Star Lord since they were very young. Their noble bloodlines were much more brilliant than the vicious Kuans. Star Lord believed that he was omnipotent, so Wang Ling wasn't surprised at all that he had these battle pets. Didn't Wang Zhen, that rookie, open a fishery to raise Kuans? The rainbow divine fire of an adult three-headed phoenix was more powerful than he had imagined, but the flames weren't able to penetrate Wang Ling's barrier. Wang Ling had now comprehended divine Tao, and with the support of the 3,000 great Tao of the 10 universes, his formidable battle strength was enough for him to withstand any injury. But these 7 three-headed phoenixes had been raised by Star Lord since they were young, and in their hearts, they already believed that Star Lord was the strongest in the universe, so they didn't care about Wang Ling at all. Blasphemy against the gods, only death awaits. The three-headed phoenix in the lead spoke. It opened its beak full of sharp teeth and flapped its slender wings. Several wind feathers flew out, accompanied by the rainbow divine fire, and pierced Wang Ling's vitals. Stand down. Wang Ling didn't even look as he waved his hand with the back of his hand. The rainbow divine fire that filled the sky was actually extinguished. Before the three-headed phoenixes could react, the force of this hand sent all 7 of them spinning. Before Star Lord could repair them, the 7 three-headed phoenixes he had summoned had already turned into 7 pools of blood that exploded against the palace walls. The 7 three-headed phoenixes were as weak as mosquitoes, unable to withstand a single blow. Star Lord's expression finally changed. He got up from the throne and glared at Wang Ling. Very good, very good. You're the first to make this king get up. However, before he could even finish saying the word, get up, a voice interrupted his thoughts. Wang Ling didn't speak, but a terrifying voice that shook the soul rang out in Star Lord's mind. Since you like to sit, then never get up. Wang Ling curled the corners of his lips and took a step forward. Divine Tao Star Lord felt a huge pressure on his shoulders, and he sat back down. Chapter 926. Divine Tao Star Lord was pressed firmly into the throne. His face turned red as he felt the greatest humiliation. Since he had taken control of Divine Tao Star, no one had ever dared to treat him like this. But now, a high school student who had been born on Earth, which he had originally regarded as an inferior planet, was actually pressing him down on the throne and making him unable to move. He was furious, but there was nothing he could do. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly heard a voice coming from the throne under Star Lord. Although Divine Tao Star Lord was pressed down on the throne and couldn't move, the throne slowly turned around to face Wang Ling. At the same time, an emotionless human face appeared on the back of the throne. I miscalculated. I never thought that there would be someone like you on Earth, no, in the universe. As the throne spoke, the fluctuations of godly power in the surroundings completely calmed down. Wang Ling stared at the throne. Earlier, he had felt that it had an unusual origin, but he had never thought that it would actually have its own consciousness. Furthermore, this wasn't the smell of an artifact spirit, and was completely different from one. What was this? God? Or was there another name for it? The universe was so big, and there were too many things Wang Ling didn't understand. But he didn't care what this throne was. Whether it was a god or a devil. Since it had disturbed him, he would just destroy it. You're no ordinary person. With such formidable strength, even in our divine Tao, you're a 1 in a million supreme divinity. But you won't be able to live on today. It's all my fault for indulging Shintian too much. He only has one divine Tao, so naturally, he's no match for you. The human face on the back of the throne spoke without a trace of emotion, which was what was truly terrifying. The Shintian he spoke of was the name of Divine Tao Star Lord. Then what on earth are you? An artifact spirit? At that moment, Bai Qiao spoke from the front. The human face on the throne smiled. Golden light burst out around him, and starry specks that looked like petals hovered around him like a lofty god. God is me, and I am God. You mere cultivators from Earth have never touched the God realm, so naturally, you don't know what God is. The funniest thing is that you actually have a place called the God's domain. The throne sneered. There is neither the reality of a god nor the power of a god, yet you enjoy the name of a god. You will definitely suffer a backlash. The throne spoke confidently and lightly, completely disregarding Wang Ling and Bai Qiao. The real God realm is at the edge of the universe, a place you will never be able to reach. If you hadn't set up a God realm and impersonated the gods, you wouldn't have suffered such divine wrath. The throne spoke tirelessly. He pointed out the crux of the contradiction and pointed all the spearheads at the God's domain, which was originally the place where cultivators ascended. Wang Ling didn't understand the meaning of God. He had never seen a real God. This was all relative. To ordinary people, soul formation stage cultivators were already considered gods. For soul formation cultivators, the gods in their hearts might be true immortals. As for those at the true immortal level, they yearned for the immortal supremacy level and the God domain. Since ancient times, cultivators had never stopped pursuing realms. To sum it up in simple and easy to understand terms, whoever was stronger was a god. Star Lord of Divine Tao Star seemed to have been silenced by the throne. Only then did Wang Ling realize that this Star Lord was in fact also a puppet, and his real opponent was actually the throne beneath him. Are you going to kill yourself, or wait for me to do it? The throne spoke. Its voice reached the horizon, as if it had come from the center of the universe. It deliberately used this godly pressure to attack Wang Ling. Wang Ling indeed felt the pressure, but it wasn't enough to make him kneel. Do it, it's too troublesome. Wang Ling stared at the throne as he spoke telepathically. What do you mean? The throne was impatient. Several gems on the armrests burst forth with light, and as he pointed forward, a beam of light as thick as a thigh shot forward, accompanied by a thunderous roar that shook the entire golden palace. But in the next moment, this godly light was split in two. What's that? The human face on the back of the throne frowned. He fixed his eyes on the youngster, and saw that a peach-wood sword had actually appeared in his hand. Wang Ling had already said the line, sword, come, countless times, and was now actually a little tired of it. It had been a good summer vacation, but one trouble after another had attacked him. This divine realm was a little in need of a beating. He didn't care what this throne's background was. In this world, apart from Mother Wan's food and Super Chen's mouth, there was nothing else that could make Wang Ling's heart tremble. Even the godly pressure released by this throne from the real divine realm didn't make him feel the slightest bit timid. The throne didn't make a move because it sensed a trace of strangeness from the young man's calm and collected posture. The face on the back of the throne was very solemn as it stared at the youngster in front of it. The youngster slowly walked over to the golden divine pillar in the palace and sat down. One arm casually rested on his knee as he leaned against the pillar and sighed softly. This sitting posture. At that moment, the throne turned pale with fright. It actually saw a familiar figure in this sitting posture. That was impossible, this person was already gone. The face on the back of the throne kept changing. It stared at the youngster with its all-seeing divine eyes, but all it saw was that the youngster's past life and future were actually nothingness that it couldn't see through at all. Wang Ling smiled. He knew that the throne was looking at him. But even he himself couldn't see through his past and future, let alone this broken throne. It's time to end this. Wang Ling turned his gaze to the throne. At that moment, the throne no longer had its previous arrogance. A very dangerous feeling lingered in the throne's heart. Wang Ling gently tossed the peach-wood sword in his hand into the air, and it released a dense godly power. The power of divine way. The throne looked incredulous. You gave the power of divine way to your sword spirit? No. Wang Ling shook his head, his cold voice echoing in the air. It's just supplementary lessons. The throne, supplementary lessons? Wang Ling, if I can learn it, my sword spirit can naturally learn it too. The truth was that in the few dozen seconds it had taken for Wang Ling to summon Jinka, cut off that divine light, and sit down, the supplementary lessons had already been completed. The reason why Wang Ling had tossed Jinka into the air now was so that Jinka and Bai Qiao could resonate. When the sword and the scabbard approached each other, their memories would merge into one. The power of divine Wei would then be split into two. So, I don't need to do anything at all. Wang Ling stared at the throne, his expression as calm as an ancient well. At that moment, Bai Qiao, who understood Wang Ling's meaning, turned into a scabbard for the first time. It was Jinka who hesitated a little in the air. He had never been in a scabbard before, and for a moment, he was a little shy, and the sword glowed red. Bai Qiao was a little impatient. Cut the crap. Hurry up and get in. Chapter 927. This was Jinka's first time fusing with the scabbard. In the void, the two shadows overlapped and fused into a brand new shadow. In an instant, a powerful divine power appeared in the air and enveloped the entire palace. Everything was trembling, and rocks collapsed. Cracks spread across hundreds of divine pillars as if they were about to collapse at any time. After the fusion, Jinka also changed. His hair grew longer and fell to his waist, while Bai Qiao's trademark ahog appeared on top of his head. After the fusion, he looked like a teenager Wang Ling had never seen before. Jinka was taller and looked like he had grown up a lot. His white robe had turned into a gorgeous snow-white fur coat, and his entire body exuded a noble and insufferably arrogant temperament. The teenager looked at Wang Ling and bowed before turning his gaze to the opponent in front of him, the throne from the divine realm who claimed to be a true god. The power of the contract allowed Wang Ling to quickly figure out the identity of this newcomer. Was he called Jingbai? Wang Ling recited the name in his mind. Who are you? The throne was shaken by this frightening aura and felt a kind of fear. You don't deserve to know this king's name. Jingbai stared at the throne, and several chi swords formed from godly power hovered around him to form a protective sword array. Then, endless sword light poured forward like thousands of falling stars, and a golden brown light enveloped everything in front of it. Star-Lord's divine palace was instantly destroyed in the blink of an eye. He had been sitting next to the divine pillar a moment ago, but now the pillar behind him had already collapsed and everything around him was in ruins. Light was released from the golden rubble, and the throne turned into a beam of light that shot out of the pile of rubble. Divine Dao Star's Star-Lord was already gone. The moment Jingbai had attacked just now, the throne had compressed him into a jewel and embedded it in its armrest. Wang Ling raised his eyebrows. It looked like the jewels on the throne had an extraordinary origin, and the three-headed phoenix had even been sealed inside them. It was likely that there were even more frightening things in the other jewels. What happened next also confirmed Wang Ling's suspicions. On the throne, a pitch-black gem was plucked off. Primal chaos holy light radiated from within, forming a gigantic divine shadow in the air. This divine shadow was pure white, as if it was radiating a holy light. Its 16 wings spread open, and its shadow covered the entire world. This divine shadow enveloped the throne, and every movement it made exuded a terrifying divine aura. Divine power boiled and evaporated in the air, emitting a temperature that could melt everything. The ruins below were all vaporized. The rioting main city fell silent for a moment. Everyone saw this gigantic divine shadow. Powerful divine power exploded from the sky and surged in all directions. This was an unprecedented battle. 16-winged God is a god from the god world. Once he makes a move, he will be unstoppable. The throne spoke. He was surrounded by the 16-winged god, airtight. At this moment, he was also full of confidence. He didn't believe that he would lose this battle. This was not a home battle, so he could not mobilize more divine power, so he could only summon the 16-winged god. In the god world, there were 32 wings, 46 wings, and 98 wings. But when the throne thought about it carefully, this 16-winged god was already enough to deal with the current situation. At that moment, 16-winged god put his palms together, and golden light surged in his hands. A holy sword extended from his palms and soared into the sky. Thousands of meters long, it slashed forward with world-destroying holy light. It's His Excellency Star Lord. His Excellency Star Lord is angry. One by one, the divine dragons stopped their attacks and knelt on the ground to kowtow. Behind them, the monsters from various planets were also forced to kneel on the ground, unable to move under the strong pressure. Number 60 High School's team, which was fighting in the distance, saw this scene. Super Chen and the others had been fighting fiercely with the commander of the Imperial Army when they suddenly heard a loud bang, and the Golden Palace actually collapsed just like that. This game is too realistic. They've simply put in a lot of effort. Hero Guo was stupefied. Indeed, it's almost like the real thing. This CG special effects are a little amazing. Is our country's special effects already so advanced? Super Chen stopped his attack. Looking at 16-winged god from a distance, he felt his heart tremble. The buffs on number 60 High School's team hadn't disappeared, and Wang Ling had even strengthened their long-range attacks. Otherwise, under the pressure of this godly power, Super Chen and the other Foundation establishment cultivators would have been instantly crushed into meat paste. Jingbai looked at 16-winged god, his eyes as calm as an ancient well. The next moment, he pointed at the sky, and his eyes focused. A magic sword larger than 16-winged gods materialized from the nomological laws that constantly revolved in his eyes, and condensed in the air. This was the world-annihilating sword. Everything in sight was reduced to ashes. 16-winged god and the throne were scared out of their wits, and several of the wings that symbolized the gods fell off like chicken feathers. The throne never thought that a mere sword spirit from Earth could actually burst forth with this kind of power. When he summoned 16-winged god, he was initially full of confidence in this battle. But as soon as this world-annihilating sword appeared, he immediately knew that he was going to lose this battle. Go! The throne shouted softly. He ordered 16-winged god to flap his wings and leave divine Tao Star, intending to fly toward the divine world on the edge of the universe. However, the world-annihilating sword's heavy pressure had already descended, and 16-winged god felt even more pressured. He felt as if each of his wings was tied with a weight weighing billions of kilograms, and it was as if he had fallen into water and couldn't fly. You think you can leave? Jingbai's eyes were extremely cold. He had in fact used less than a tenth of his strength to materialize this world-annihilating sword with his eyes. Hence, Jingbai hadn't been frightened by this 16-winged god from the very beginning. In Jingbai's eyes, this was nothing more than a white chicken with 8 pairs of wings that could be killed at any time. The world-annihilating sword slashed down, but before it could touch 16-winged god's body, Sword Shi had already touched his feathers, and he screamed miserably. A mere 16-winged god dares to be so arrogant in front of this king? Jingbai sneered. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back, the fine white fur of his fur coat swaying slightly in the wind. Who on earth are you? Knowing that it couldn't get out, the throne turned pale with fright. It had never expected this sword to be this kind of person. I've cut down your 128-winged one. Even 256-winged one isn't enough for one strike from my sword. Jingbai's words were so shocking that the throne trembled in fear. If you want to know this king's identity, ask your 1,000-winged god. He mercilessly brought the world-annihilating sword down. No, the throne roared. But Jingbai's movements were too fast. This world-annihilating sword looked clumsy, but it was as fast as a samurai's sword. In the blink of an eye, it slashed down from head to tail, splitting the throne in two on the spot, and the legs of the throne exploded on the spot. P.S. On Valentine's Day, the throne cheated on someone. In the end, this cheating joke was given to all the lovers in the world. Chapter 928. When 16-winged god and the throne of the divine realm were smashed into ashes by the world-annihilating sword, the outcome of this battle was already sealed. The jewels embedded in the throne disappeared, and the throne sent them away before it completely disappeared. This was a brilliant teleportation spell. Jingbai saw it clearly, but he couldn't be bothered to stop it. He was the king of swords, and naturally didn't need to bother with this drowning dog who had fled in panic. But the divine realm had invaded Earth this time and stirred things up, so he still had to show his strength. Killing just 16 winged god wasn't satisfying enough. At this thought, Jingbai raised his sword fingers and cut a hole in the air that led straight to the divine realm. Without thinking too much, he put his hands behind his back and stepped into the air that led to the divine realm. At the same time, Wang Ling, who had been watching the battle from below, was sucked into a snow-white spiritual world. This was the throne's request after it was destroyed, and after thinking about it, Wang Ling accepted it. As the saying went, a dying man's words were kind. Wang Ling saw what the throne looked like after it died. It was a man whose face couldn't be seen clearly. He had a pair of wings and floated slightly in the air like a phantom. When a man died, his soul was his soul, and when a god died, he was nothing. This was the phantom of the throne after it died. I lost, the throne said. There seemed to be some regret in its words, but it was clearly too late for regret. Wang Ling stared at the throne, his expression as calm as an ancient well. You have a lot of doubts in your heart. You can find the answers to them in the divine realm, the throne said faintly. Wang Ling didn't reply. The throne had indeed guessed correctly, and he did indeed have a lot of doubts. Especially after learning about the divine realm, he was very confused. He was confused about whether there was a way to help him control his power. He was confused about what the way of life in the divine realm was like. His main concern was whether there were crispy noodle snacks to eat in the divine realm. The phantom on the throne looked at Wang Ling. Your past and future are nothing. Do you know why? I think this is what you're most confused about. Wang Ling, I'm going to disperse. The death of a god is also a kind of release. Speaking up to this point, Su Ling's lower body had already begun to gradually disappear. He turned to Wang Ling. Have you ever wondered why you're still single? Wang Ling's face was as calm as an ancient well. You've sealed your power, and you've also sealed your emotions. You are destined to become one of us, but the time has not come yet. By now, more than half of the throne's ethereal spirit had disappeared. Before he disappeared completely, he left Wang Ling one last sentence. Maybe when you grow old, you'll still be square dancing with many other gods in the divine realm, in the god realm, a place that Jingbai had almost forgotten. This world was bright and filled with vegetation. Countless spiritual bodies could be seen shuttling back and forth. These spiritual bodies were all deities. The moment Jingbai stepped into the divine realm, the spirit bodies in the air gathered from all directions to finally form a divine figure, and an ethereal voice rang out from the air. Divine realm, winged god reminds you that safety comes first among thousands of paths. If you break the rules without permission, your loved ones will cry. This was 98 winged god. Call your 1,000 winged god to see me. Jingbai raised his hand, and a sword light shot out from between his fingers. In a flash, 98 winged god was reduced to ashes. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with 98 winged god. This was the first time they had combined, and it wouldn't last long. Everything had to be done quickly. The godly power here was like an ocean, and the endless energy was like raging waves. Even people from the domain of the gods who came here would be disintegrated immediately, let alone cultivators on Earth. Their bodies were too weak, and they would be crushed into ashes in a flash by the energy. If he hadn't been in this combined state, Jingbai wouldn't have dared to stay here for too long. Thus, in the divine realm, what Jingbai saw were actually spiritual bodies. They lived in another form of life, like wind, but not wind, and like light, but not light. It was only when foreign enemies invaded that these spiritual bodies combined and turned into winged gods. The more wings they had, the stronger they were. The gods of the divine realm shared all their wisdom, memories, and senses. When Jingbai slashed at 98 winged god, he could clearly sense the spiritual bodies swimming in the air wailing. There were the sobs of babies, the cries of children, and the low, sorrowful teardrops of adults. After 98 winged god disappeared, Jingbai waited a few dozen seconds, and the spiritual bodies in this area instantly gathered in one direction. Like countless fish condensing in the air, they piled up bit by bit from the thighs to the legs, the torso, the hands, the neck, the head, and finally the 100 wings on the back. I said, call your thousand-winged god to see me. Jingbai had already raised his hand, intending to kill the hundred-winged god in front of him. Hundred-winged god pleaded for mercy. Your Majesty, please be merciful. Jingbai withdrew his hand. It seems that you've reflected on your actions? Hundred-winged god flapped its wings, and countless divine feathers drifted down like flower petals in a peaceful manner. The next second, the pure white and flawless divine feathers formed talisman characters in the air, and a holy scroll fell into Jingbai's hand. What is this? Jingbai didn't open it. Thousand-winged god's letter of reflection, replied hundred-winged god. He had shrunk his body and was level with Jingbai as a sign of respect, like a little brother who didn't dare act rashly at all. Just one letter of reflection? Not enough, not enough. Jingbai snorted. Then your Majesty means, according to the Earth calendar, from the end of my master's summer break, he must write a letter of reflection every day. In addition, apart from a letter of reflection, does your thousand-winged god have any remedial measures at all? Lord Jingbai, there are remedial measures. In this letter of reflection. Hundred-winged god wiped at his cold sweat. We have decided to restore the planet that divine Tao star devoured. In addition, we will punish the spiritual body of 16-winged god and star lord of divine Tao star, who went out to expand on their own. The divine dragons were created by you. You can decide how you want to punish them. But apart from these, is there nothing else? Jingbai asked. Of course there is. Hundred-winged god, we will resurrect all the innocent creatures who died in this battle. At the same time, we will send someone to establish diplomatic relations with the domain of the gods. Hundred-winged god said weakly. Think again. Jingbai frowned. Then, apart from the domain of the gods, we will also establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Hundred-winged god was a little alarmed. No. Think again. Jingbai was a little anxious. He put his finger on hundred-winged god's neck. If you can't think of anything, I'll poke you to death with one finger and have your thousand-winged god think for you. Crispy noodle snacks. We will give you a planet's worth of crispy noodle snacks. Not bad, you're worth teaching, Jingbai nodded and put down his finger. Chapter 929. In the god world, countless phantoms roamed the skies. Jingbai opened up a brand new passageway in the air, and the group stepped into the void to leave. The shivering void spirits all sighed with emotion at having survived a disaster, and all kinds of complex emotions mixed together, panic, trembling, joy. Their emotions were intertwined, and in that instant, they reached a high level of sublimation. A golden ball of light slowly condensed in the air. Flower petals floated around it, spreading powerful divine energy. The nearby ethereal spirits all avoided it, not daring to get close. God Hundred-Winged retracted his wings and kowtowed to the golden ball of light. Lord Thousand-Winged, the ball of light formed by Thousand-Winged God's consciousness let out a shocking voice that reverberated in the God realm. Are they finally gone? He's already gone, Master God. He's finally gone, the Godhead sighed. I'm responsible for this as well. He had forgotten to tell the divine dragons not to provoke Earth. Although Earthlings look weak, they are the planet with the most variables. At the mention of this, Hundred-Winged God had lingering fears. Those who offend Earth must be killed no matter how far away they are, that's the principle. Shen Tuan broke out in a cold sweat. I'll leave the matter of establishing diplomatic relations to you. The divine territory and Earth, not a single one can be missing. All right, liberation and resurrection. You have to do it beautifully. All right, the most important thing is the crispy noodle snacks. The most important thing was crispy noodle snacks. The most important thing is the crispy noodle snacks. All right, Hundred-Winged God, then in your opinion, Divine Master, what form should we use to give this planet's crispy noodle snacks? Let's use the raw materials of the crispy noodle snacks to make a planet. The surface area of the planet cannot be smaller than the sun. Alright, on the other side, the abnormal energy fluctuations on Earth had all disappeared, and Wang Ming, Jai-in, and the other researchers at the Research Institute all breathed long sighs of relief. The readings have finally stabilized. That was close. I thought the Earth was going to explode. But what exactly is going on? This abnormal energy is exactly the same as when the gate between worlds descended 6 years ago. Could it be a spatial leak? Spatial leakage? Can I use the bosom protector to block it? After surviving the disaster, many researchers sat on the ground, drenched in sweat. They had mixed feelings, a little weak and a little happy. Just now, the abnormal energy wave in the core was about to reach the peak of an explosion, but it suddenly disappeared. The truth was that the current situation in various research institutes wasn't much better than Wang Ming's. The entire east, south, west, and west were in chaos. Fortunately, the abnormal energy disappeared in time. At that moment, Wang Ming received a call from President Xi. Jai-in led him out of the laboratory and into a sealed room to answer the call. Little Ming. President Xi's voice came from the other end of the line. Have you investigated the cause of the accident? Old Xi, I was going to ask you, I'm a little confused myself. Wang Ming dropped his forehead into his hand and sighed. But there might be someone who knows about this incident. You mean, Guoping? In the end, they were master and disciple, and President Xi quickly understood. Although Uncle Guoping is rumored to be dead, I think he might still be alive. Moreover, he has already found the source of the abnormal energy back then. Wang Ming said, also, although I don't have any direct evidence at the moment, based on my analysis and speculation, I suspect that it might be an energy-swallowing phenomenon. Let's hear it, President Xi said. Actually, he had already guessed it in his heart, but he wanted to hear Wang Ming's opinion. This was the disciple he was most proud of. This energy gushed out of the Earth's core and kept expanding in an oval shape, assimilating all the spirit qi in its path. So I'm guessing that this was a premeditated swallowing. After this abnormal energy covers the entire Earth, I'm afraid it will form something like a black hole and absorb the Earth, Wang Ming replied. Your idea is pretty much the same as mine. President Xi nodded. There will be a video conference at various research institutes tonight. You'll attend and explain the possible cause of the accident. Me? Old Xi, you're not going? I still have some things I need to investigate. In any case, it's just some idle chatter. President Xi said, your identity is confidential, so you'll have to do a good job of concealment during the video conference tonight. I remember that the institute still has leopard embryo transfiguration pills. After you take them, your facial organs will soften. Find someone who's deft with hands to mold your face. Wang Ming nodded. All right. When it came to molding faces, Jai-in was actually pretty good at it. Girls were more meticulous, and while Jai-in didn't bother with trifles, after learning how to cook in the last few months, Wang Ming realized that she was a very meticulous person. Although the dishes he made were inedible, they still looked good. Half an hour before the start of the video conference, Wang Ming had already taken the leopard embryo transfiguration pill. Jai-in cupped Wang Ming's face in her hands. Tell me, what do you want me to look like? Wang Ming didn't even think about it. Please make me look like Audiobook, but please make sure to give me dead fish eyes, thank you. Jai-in, that night, the almighties of various research institutes gathered for the video conference, all of whom were world-renowned leaders in the cultivation black technology world. Jai-in, who was sitting next to Wang Ming, saw a lot of familiar faces in the video conference, all of whom had appeared in authoritative scientific magic treasure magazines. What's the name of this oval-shaped face with delicate features? Jai-in pointed at a little brother sitting in the video. This little brother looked pretty good, and actually reminded Jai-in of a familiar actor's face, but she couldn't recall his name for the moment. This doctor is called Jai-T Lin. He published an intelligent thesis writing machine in a magazine before. This writing machine can make new deductions from existing scientific magic treasure research papers, draw inferences about other cases from one instance, and finally reorganize them into a brand new paper. The method is brilliant and the technique is formidable. You can't even find it on HowNet. It said that once this machine was invented, it received widespread acclaim during this year's Spring Festival alone. Half the scientific circle came to congratulate it. But some experts said that this would have a huge impact on the fairness and impartiality of the academic community. That's why this thesis machine hasn't been released to date. Then, who's that square-faced old lady? This is teacher Jia Tingyue, the inventor of the transnational underwater tunnel. She's pretty awesome. Come to think of it, she's also Chinese. Back then, she built the tunnel to cross the sea, and after arriving at Mishio Nation, she settled down there, and never came back. Sogu Reading Website. Chapter 930. As Wang Ming and Zhai Yin could see, Magic Treasure academic experts from all over the world were attending the video conference this time, and several of them were eminent figures. Wang Ming swept his gaze around, and there was a faint look of disappointment in his eyes. Aren't they very awesome? Why do you look a little unhappy? Zhai Yin said. There are too few inventors, and the only famous ones are the ones I mentioned to you. The rest are all canon researchers. Zhai Yin, munitions. Wang Ming, verbal cannons. Zhai Yin, verbal cannons were very magical things. They could start wars or bring peace. There were even people in this world who could use the art of verbal cannons to whitewash or blacken someone. The only limitation was that blackening was twice as strong, while whitewashing was 3 times weaker. No wonder old Qi wasn't willing to attend the conference. It seemed that he already knew the name list. Wang Ming pursed his lips. A higher official could crush a person to death. He had no reason to refuse old Qi. After thinking for a bit, Wang Ming sighed. Actually, he didn't need to listen to what these people had to say. It was just entertainment for the time being. In any case, they were just a bunch of armchair strategists. There was no need to consider language barriers in the video conference. When anyone spoke, the built-in software would translate their words simultaneously. That was to say, the person sitting in front of the video conference was speaking their mother tongue, but the software would translate their words into a language that other people could understand. After another 20 minutes or so, the video conference began. Experts from various countries appeared on the screen. They were divided into very small videos densely packed together in the online conference room, and it was only when it was time for them to speak that their videos would be intelligently identified and enlarged. Wang Ming wasn't in a hurry to present his theory, and instead wanted to hear what the other foreign experts had to say. At that moment, the video suddenly zoomed in, and a bearded uncle in a white robe and a white canvas hat spoke. The simultaneous interpretation software translated his words with a strong curry flavor. Friends from all over the country, I am the director of the Magic Treasure Research Institute and a full professor of the Strategic Magic Treasure Research Society, from Inshio Nation. My name is Proshue Zishu Seuss. You can call me Seuss. I've written a new analysis report on this strange energy explosion. Many people in the video suddenly fell silent. Some of them sat up straight and looked at Professor Seuss with a serious expression, while others had their heads down and seemed to be taking notes in a small notebook. Wang Ming hadn't had a deep understanding of this Professor Seuss before, so it wasn't appropriate for him to give much of an evaluation. But since he could become the head of a research institute in Inshio Nation, he should be someone with some ability. Our initial assessment is that the abnormal energy fluctuations this time should have a lot to do with our Inshio Nation's famous delicacy curry. Wang Ming and Zhai Yin took deep breaths at the same time. As expected, even a director could spout nonsense these days. Professor Seuss said confidently, everyone knows how delicious Indian curry is. Now our most famous curry rice sauce has been endorsed by the internationally famous movie star, Mr. Wang Jingzi. The energy fluctuations this time have caused trouble for everyone, and our Inshio Nation will definitely take responsibility until the end. Our king has decided to give every country a 20% discount on curry orders. So, at this point, the video call with Professor Seuss was directly cut off. Zhai Yin, what's going on? Wang Ming chuckled. Super Administrator, come and seal his room. Zhai Yin was utterly shocked. There's actually a Super Administrator. Super Administrators are from the United Nations, and all video conferences have Super Administrators. Inshio Nation's financial statements this year aren't very good, so I reckon that this director was forced to use this video conference to promote his curry. Wang Ming smiled rather wickedly. But while Professor Seuss's video call had been cut off by the super administrator, the purpose of the advertisement had clearly been achieved. When the time came, the video of this video conference would be backed up to the leaders of the various countries, and leaders who wanted to buy curry would be able to see it. For the sake of selling curry, Professor Seuss was banned from speaking for 72 hours. But not long after Professor Seuss went offline, the video zoomed in again, and a scientist in a white coat, who looked as mighty and rough as a bear, said, "Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Pudin from Maoshio." This was a Russian. Maoshio Nation was a famous fighting nation, and was also a weapons powerhouse. Wang Ming had a better understanding of this group of people, and they could be considered to be the ones with the most genuine talent in this group. That was because many of the new weapons that Huaxiao Nation's Research Institute was currently developing were collaborations with Maoshio Nation's researchers. Everyone, according to our Research Institute's analysis. We suspect that the abnormal energy fluctuations this time are a devouring phenomenon. As Wang Ming had expected, this Mr. Elizabeth from Maoshio Nation raised the same opinion as Wang Ming. Wang Ming saw that when the experts and scholars from various countries heard this, they all raised their heads and sent a string of bullet messages. Zhai Yin was startled again. "You can even send bullet messages? It's a video conference, after all." There are too many voice questions, so the function of sending bullet messages has also been transplanted to international video conferences. Similarly, the software will directly translate the text, said Wang Ming. Zhai Yin, then, a lot of bullet messages floated over this Maoshio Nation's Russian's head. Most people were asking what a devouring phenomenon was. Regarding this, the expert also gave an explanation. In layman's terms, this phenomenon is very likely a sudden phenomenon caused by an extraterrestrial invasion. But for some reason, they suddenly decided to give up on the invasion, so the abnormal energy we detected returned to normal. If they hadn't chosen to give up, it would have been less than a day before our Earth would have been completely covered by this energy. The Russian expert spoke very vividly. As he explained the situation, he gestured with his hands. So, in order to deal with a future invasion by an alien civilization that attempts to devour the Earth, I propose that we unite all the cultivators of the world and immediately carry out the Wandering Earth Plan. Wandering Earth Plan, everyone was suddenly enlightened and shocked by this grand plan. What are the specifics? Someone raised his hand and asked. The Russian expert raised a finger and replied, the first step. Build new toilets on one side of the Earth. And they have to be massive. My initial plan is to build toilet parks that are big enough for half the cultivators on Earth to use. Wang Ming was stunned. Building toilets? What kind of operation was this? P.S. Sorry, I'm typing this on my phone. I hurt my knee when I was working out. I'm in the hospital for follow-up. Chapter 931. The Russian expert spoke passionately, clearly very confident in the entire plan. He showed off his blueprints in front of the video conference room. There were hundreds of them, containing all kinds of plans, formulas, and implementation theories after simulation experiments. It was clear that the Russian expert had been planning this plan for a long time and only needed an opportunity to implement it. For many years, the various countries had actually been discussing the topic of an extraterrestrial cultural invasion. What they had to face was nothing more than a collision between different civilizations. Whether it was friendly diplomatic relations or rude invasions, there would be sparks from friction. So how to use existing means to control the sparks and not let them explode, preventing what was originally a cultural exchange from becoming a nuclear bomb that would bring about a global disaster. This was the problem that the various research institutes had been studying all this time. And it was very clear that the plan proposed by the Russian expert was an extremely large project. Why are we building toilets? Someone asked. As everyone knows, our Earth is currently in a state of scarcity of spirit energy. Before we find an all-purpose energy source that can replace spirit energy, my plan is a sustainable development plan that can continue as long as humans exist. The Russian expert said, We want to build a total of 2 billion soul formation toilets that meet the ergonomics of soul formation cultivators. Although there aren't that many soul formation cultivators in the world, limiting the number of toilets to soul formation cultivators is also a consideration for the future. A toilet that even soul formation cultivators can't break, so cultivators below the soul formation stage naturally can't do anything about it. So, Mr. Elizabeth's first step is to build a toilet park and build 2 billion toilets that meet the soul formation standard? What exactly is this plan for? Of course it's to prevent extraterrestrials from invading and pushing Earth out of the solar system. After Professor Elizabeth said this, the entire video conference room fell into a long silence. It was as if they couldn't believe their ears, but they were indeed shocked by this crazy and imaginative idea of the Russian expert. Push out of the solar system? How so? After everyone was stunned for a long time, someone finally asked the key question. The Russian expert analyzed with a straight face. Everyone's imagination is really too poor. You should have had an idea in your heads after hearing about the toilet park idea. I said before that Earth is currently lacking in spirit energy. If we use compressed spirit energy as a propulsion force, it's not enough to push Earth out of the solar system. Previously, I saw someone on the bullet screen asking if it's possible to get perfected immortals to work together to push Earth away. This method doesn't work. It's true that a fight between perfected immortals can destroy Earth, but to push Earth out of the solar system, even the power of a perfected immortal can't shake it. At this point, the Russian expert opened a picture. This was a blueprint for a huge propulsion system. Not only was Professor Elizabeth's drawing very detailed, but even the specific parameters were marked very accurately. This blueprint is my initial concept. Professor Elizabeth said, my initial idea is to have all the cultivators in the core formation stage and above unite to go to the toilet in the park, using their own dirty air as the driving force. Oh, by the way, filthy air has another name, which is fart. Everyone, the device that everyone is looking at, can decompose and condense their foul gas in a short period of time and extract effective combustible substances. As we all know, the farts of cultivators are different from those of ordinary people. I wonder if everyone has tested their own farts. In addition to some harmful substances, our farts can also be recycled as an energy source. The farts of ordinary people are composed of nitrogen 59%, hydrogen 21%, carbon dioxide 9%, methane 7%, oxygen 3%, and other 1%. But the farts of us cultivators, on top of the above, also contain an extremely low amount of EN spirit energy. This EN spirit energy is the waste gas produced when we exercise. The higher the realm of a cultivator, the more it contains. So as long as the concentration is high enough, we can use the EN spirit energy discharged from our bodies and methane as the energy source for the propulsion system. Finally, we can ignite Earth. We can charge out of the solar system. We can find a new sun and start a brand new life. Oh, by the way, the implementation of this plan may take a very long time. Perhaps it will require our descendants to complete it together. But this plan is truly a plan for all the people. Moreover, this plan will also help promote the global sweet potato economy. For a very long time in the future, the sales of sweet potatoes will reach a peak. This humble one is untalented, but I've even thought of the slogan. Eating sweet potatoes together, the whole family is awesome. The Wandering Earth Plan, you deserve it. When the Russian expert said this, all the experts from various countries in the video conference were stupefied by this appalling statement. They were so frightened that they even dropped the pens in their hands. Wang Ming silently turned off the monitor and deeply doubted his own life. It was Friday, September 1st, the 19th day of the summer break. Super Chen, Dopey Gua and Little Peanut, the number 60 middle school team who had visited the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe earlier, were extremely excited. Super Chen and the others had made contributions in successfully confronting Divine Tao Star Lord this time, and Guoping had said in the game that they would receive a reward from the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe after the game was over. Since they had said it, they naturally had to put on a good show. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wasn't a stingy person. He directly ordered 3 identical virtual game pods online and had them delivered to the 3 families early in the morning. Their parents were stupefied. They had no idea at all when their sons had contacted the Office of Strategic Deception. Furthermore, the head of their sect had even specifically ordered the latest virtual game pods on the market to be delivered to their homes. These were top-of-the-line virtual game pods, which cost several million each. As the Chin family's parents expressed their thanks, they asked the staff member who had come to install them in a very low voice, Will this affect your studies? Don't worry, the machines were custom-made by our sect head. Before the college entrance examination is over, there's a daily time limit. Also, there's a game called Fengxian Prefecture, which requires you to clear levels every day, otherwise you won't be able to play other games. Of course, if they find it annoying, they can wait until the fire burns the lock, the dog licks the noodles, and the chicken pecks the rice, only then can they continue playing. The Chin family's parents, /0_M. Chapter 932. Super Chin and the others were beyond excited when they received the game pods. The Office of Strategic Deception really gave us a big gift this time. In the Grade 1, Class 3 Squad's chat group, Super Chin posted pictures of the game pods from various angles. Fang Xing sent a grinning emoji. Not posting on WeChat moments? Senior Audiobook already called us and told us to keep a low profile. We've already received our gifts, so what's there to be dissatisfied about? If he doesn't want to post them, then so be it. Super Chin said indifferently, but it's a pity that I feel like I'm forgetting something in the holographic game we played yesterday. After he said this, Dopey Gua and Little Peanut immediately agreed with him. Dopey Gua, Super? You also feel like you're forgetting something? That's strange. I feel like I'm forgetting something too. Little Peanut became nervous. Could it be a side effect? Don't worry, it can't be a side effect. Fang Xing comforted them. The holographic game pods you're experiencing now are the latest models, and the game is also the latest. The game pods are designed to connect to the brain's nerves. But in order not to burden your brains too much, forgetting things after you get offline is actually a normal phenomenon. Furthermore, the game you experienced yesterday was a closed beta, and it's still confidential. Fang Xing had come up with this explanation after discussing it with the people from the Office of Strategic Deception. Actually, after the game ended, the memories of the number 60 High Squad had already been tampered with. Divine Dao Star would soon establish diplomatic relations with Earth, and Dopey Gua's distant uncle, Gua Ping, who was involved in research, would become a cosmic ambassador. If Super Chen and the others still remembered Gua Ping, this matter would be completely exposed. It was September 2nd, the 20th day of the summer break. Gua Ping, who had disappeared into outer space to carry out his plan, successfully returned to Earth, shocking the whole world. Most importantly, Gua Ping brought back a gift from Divine Dao Star this time, which was what Star-Lord called a universe gem. This universe gem had now become an important symbol of the establishment of diplomatic relations between humans and Divine Dao Star. Gua Ping and the head of state attended this meeting together in the United Nations Summit Conference Room. True immortal heads of state from various countries gathered together in a formidable and astonishing atmosphere. This was an open meeting, and the whole world was watching it closely. This was the first time humans were establishing diplomatic relations with an extraterrestrial civilization, so everything was very serious. At the same time, the leaders of various countries were also worried about the development of extraterrestrial civilizations. The leaders of the various countries basically had a mentality of being prepared for danger in times of peace. They were a group of very suspicious people, so naturally, Gua Ping's report could not be answered truthfully. Otherwise, during this summit meeting, there would definitely be individual leaders who would begin to deploy plans to prevent alien invasion. At that time, it would cause a misunderstanding, and that would be the real trouble. When you hang out with your friends, you wouldn't carry a fruit knife with you to guard against them, right? This was a sign of distrust. The leaders of the various countries were more paranoid, and Gua Ping knew the importance of his report this time. He wanted to put an end to the behavior of the leaders of the various countries who were paranoid. After all, with mascots like Miss Bai Xiao and student Wang Ling around, Divine Tao Star wouldn't have any improper thoughts about Earth. Professor Gua, please give a report on Divine Tao Star first, said that black head of state from Mishio Nation called Alito. Behind him stood his personal bodyguard. It was none other than the hero cultivator of Mishio Nation's alliance of cultivators, Spider-Woman. Immortal Toya and Spider-Woman had met before. When they were fighting Devil Gut Fungus Lord, Spider-Woman had used her but to shoot out Spider's silk, which had amazed Immortal Toya back then. Spider-Woman hadn't been able to participate in this meeting because of her abnormal spitting of spider silk, also known as abnormal leukorrhea. But considering that this was, after all, the first time humans were establishing diplomatic relations with an extraterrestrial civilization, Spider-Woman didn't hesitate to spend a lot of money to get Immortal Toya to prescribe her medicine remotely. Since the last battle with Devil Gut Fungus Lord, the Office of Strategic Deception's international status had risen substantially, and as the leader of the Elixir team, Immortal Toya's fame had also increased. The Office of Strategic Deception's Elixir team was now receiving more and more orders from abroad. At the moment, Mishio Nation was still the global leader in cultivation technology. As the black head of state spoke, the atmosphere in the conference room instantly turned serious. Guoping steadied himself and gave the speech he had already prepared. He cleared his throat and said, "Hello, leaders. I am a researcher from Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation and Magic Treasure Research Institute. My name is Guoping. 6 years ago, I was sent on a mission, but I was carelessly sucked into a black hole. When I finally landed, I happened to be on Divine Tao Star, which is billions of light years away from Earth." Guoping had specially edited this part. He didn't say that the energy thread, which was Wang Ling's hair, was the source of energy, otherwise, it would definitely cause a stir. Of course, Guoping himself didn't know that the so-called energy thread was Wang Ling's hair. This was something Wang Ming had developed back then. Wang Ming had even relied on the energy thread to receive a year-end bonus from the research institute. Divine Tao Star is farther away than we thought. With the help of Star Lord, they helped me upgrade the spaceship and use existing black hole technology to help me return to Earth. As for the gift for establishing diplomatic relations, I believe all of you have already seen it. This is a cosmic gem that can unleash boundless energy. We can use existing equipment to extract the energy from the cosmic gem to sustain Earth's spirit chi. Not only that, the cosmic gem can also circulate spirit chi and purify it. As long as it isn't damaged, it can bring a steady stream of spirit chi to Earth. To sum up, Divine Tao Star's civilization development is on par with Earth's. Our planet is vast and rich in resources, and has many display cases that are different from Earth's. As the first country to establish diplomatic relations with Earth, I think we Earthlings should also present a decent list of gifts in exchange. When Guoping said this, the leaders whispered to each other. In terms of the sincerity of the gift, this cosmic gem from Divine Tao Star was indeed of extraordinary significance. Furthermore, it had to be said that this gift would solve Earth's current urgent problem. In a few thousand years, the spirit chi on Earth would be used up, and all cultivators would cease to exist. With this cosmic gem as a continuation, it was tantamount to giving all cultivators on Earth new hope. At that moment, the head of state of Huaxiao Nation said, "How about this? After this meeting, each country will present a gift. What do you think?" The head of state of Huaxiao Nation raised his hand weakly. Can we send Jinkala? Guoping, Your Excellency head of state of Huaxiao Nation, please consider this carefully. Divine Tao Star's agriculture is very developed, we don't need Jinkala. Sogu Reading Website. Chapter 933. Gifts for establishing diplomatic ties were of great importance. During the live broadcast this time, the heads of state hadn't directly decided what they should give. Cosmic gems were of great significance, and it wouldn't be easy for them to present a gift of equal value to a cosmic gem. Thus, at the meeting, those who advocated gifting specialties were immediately vetoed. Even if they wanted to give gifts, they could only be one of the gifts on the list. Snacks and specialties could only be used as a foil, and absolutely couldn't be used as the main gift. Otherwise, they would definitely be laughed at by the people of Divine Tao Star. Huaxiao Nation's specialties and snacks alone could be packed into a lot of packages. That very day, the Academy of Science received a task. They had to use big data to come up with 100 precious specialties and snacks that were the most popular in the country. The Magic Treasure Academy of Science's instruments worked very quickly, and that night, they came up with a list based on the number of orders on the online shopping mall. Spicy strips, bubble gum, figs, calcium milk, spiced beans, hot and sour fish, melon seeds, popping candy, a host of childhood snacks were on the list. Wang Ming shared a copy of this list with Wang Ling right after the Magic Treasure Research Institute released it. After receiving the list, Wang Ling took a look. Crispy noodle snacks weren't on it. Wang Ming sent him a text message to explain, "Don't worry, crispy noodle snacks actually ranked pretty high, but I did something to delete them. How can we let aliens eat such good snacks?" When Wang Ling saw this message that looked like it was asking for praise, he was dazed at first. After a long while, he replied to Wang Ming, "You have received +1 favorable impression from Wang Ling. Why is it only +1? Not +999? Wang Ming frowned. Staring at the phone screen, Wang Ling chuckled. He knew his dumbass brother's personality too well. This guy couldn't be casually praised, otherwise he would definitely get cocky. But Wang Ming was still overjoyed that night, and was so happy that he didn't sleep. It was September 3rd, the 21st day of the summer break. The number of people online in Bai Qiao's game cultivation emulator officially broke through 50 million, which was an unprecedented figure in the history of games. The new game Apex Hero, which was in second place, only had a few million people online. The main point was that this was only the second round of beta testers. In the second round, Wang Ming had deliberately relaxed the limit on account applications and had issued tens of millions of accounts, but in the end, they were all snatched up in just a few seconds. Even Bai Qiao herself didn't expect the game she had created to be so popular. At this rate, it might be the first game to have more than 100 million players when it officially went into open beta. However, there were two sides to every coin. There were people who liked this game, and naturally, there were also people who hated it. Bai Qiao flipped through the ratings for the game. The average rating for Cultivation Emulator on major game review websites was 8.3, which was already pretty good. But after opening the reviews page, Bai Qiao's expression didn't look good, because there were actually a lot of one-star negative reviews in the comments section. At the counter of the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe, Bai Qiao was browsing through these bizarre reasons for bad reviews. There were even some strange reasons. Bad comment 1, comment, "I've never played this game before, but the name of the game is terrible. I don't like it." Negative comment 2, comment, "It's not normal for a rating to be too high. I've specially given a 1-star rating to pull down this abnormally high score. To be honest, it's disappointing that domestic games have reached this level of development. Who knew how many times Huaxiao Nation had released games with the same theme? This game merely incorporated cultivation elements. Although I've never played it before, I don't think it's anything new. Even the graphics and modeling effects can't compare to Huaxiao's. I wonder how so many 5-star reviews came about. Disappointing." Bad comment 3, comment, "There was a commemorative CD for the deleted files in the closed beta. I wanted to give it to my boyfriend to cheer him up. In the end, he lost the package. My boyfriend contacted the courier who specializes in delivering games. The courier's tone was very bad, and he asked if he was a small B*TCH or a big B*TCH. Not only did he lose the package, he even called someone else a B*TCH. How can we feel at ease playing this kind of game?" Additional comment, "Sorry, I asked my boyfriend again. He said the courier didn't scold him, but asked if he was a small or a big B*TCH. In the end, he misunderstood. Can I change the rating?" I realized I couldn't change the rating, very embarrassed. Bad comment 4, comment, "Sorry, it's still me. I'm the person who left the last comment. My boyfriend felt bored playing games. I wanted to register for this alternate account and give it 5 stars, but my boyfriend said it wasn't fun. Sorry. As Bai Qiao skimmed through these comments, the ahog on her head was about to explode in anger. These trolls, what the hell are they shouting about online? Why can they casually review a work without ever playing a game? Don't be angry, lady boss. These are all cloud players, it's very normal. It's not just cloud players in this world, there are also cloud readers and cloud viewers. They only follow the trend and don't care if something is good or bad, they will only think what they think is right. Su Xing smiled on the side. After the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe resumed operations these days, a lot of new customers had signed up, and a lot of sect leaders had signed up for an annual card here. In Su Xing's opinion, Bai Qiao was actually quite a business-minded person, and wasn't just an ordinary game otaku. Now that Cultivation Emulator was popular both at home and abroad, Bai Qiao had advertised online that as long as you played the game in the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe, your game data could be saved on the internet cafe terminal. This news attracted a lot of tourists who came to visit the restaurant. While the internet cafe attracted a large number of tourists, it also boosted the economy of the Office of Strategic Deception's other businesses. The Sect's in-house bathhouse, music hall, video game center, sword and Immortal giant screen cinema, were also affected by the internet cafe, and welcomed a large number of nouveau riche tourists. No matter what it is, as long as it's popular, there will definitely be trolls. Lady boss, you have to get over it. Su Xing tried to dissuade her. Bai Qiao felt that something wasn't right as she listened. Wait, who are you calling lady boss? Lord Jinka is the boss, so aren't you lady boss? Su Xing said. Bai Qiao's face instantly turned red. What nonsense are you spouting? I'm not lady boss. He's just a little brat. We've only fused once. And it's only been 10 minutes, and he can't do it anymore. Su Xing. Isn't it because it's the first time, and it can't last too long? Hands on her hips, Bai Qiao lectured, in short, you're not allowed to call me that. I'm not lady boss. Okay, lady boss. Oh, by the way, go and find Jinka. I need to talk to him. No problem, lady boss. Sogu reading website. Chapter 934. Su Xing didn't know what on earth Bai Qiao wanted to do, but this lady boss had always been known for her tough style of doing things. Although Su Xing hadn't spent much time with Lady Boss Bai, the old lady's noisy personality had imperceptibly left a deep impression on Su Xing. He called the Wang family's small villa, and it was Loopy Toad who picked up the phone. As it listened to Su Xing's intentions, Dog 2 couldn't help glancing upstairs. Although it had nothing to do with the trip to Divine Dao Star, Dog 2 had asked Little Silver about the specifics of what had happened on Divine Dao Star. How did Little Silver know? Naturally, it was he and Grenade Throwing who had told him. The two of them now lived under the same roof and stuck together all day, so it was a piece of cake for Little Silver to get some information. So Dog 2 also knew about Jinka and Bai Qiao's fusion on Divine Dao Star. And that was the problem. Ever since the first fusion, Jinka hadn't seemed to be in the right state. Before he went downstairs to answer the call, Dog 2 had even glanced at the bed. Lord Jinka was still lying next to Little Master Ling's pillow in the form of a peachwood sword, but the sword had already turned pink. And it was steaming all the time. Mother Wang had been using Jinka as a humidifier for the last 2 days. She didn't even need to plug in the electricity, she just had to put her head forward to use it. Furthermore, the hydration effect was so good that even Crow's feet were gone. Dog 2 raised its eyelids. Lord Jinka's current state was very worrying. Elsewhere, at the Office of Strategic Deception's internet cafe, Bai Qiao sat at the front desk and waited for more than 10 minutes before a space fissure opened up in front of her, and Jinka stepped out. Bai Qiao was clearly a little dissatisfied with Jinka's tardiness. She crossed her arms with a reproachful expression. You made me wait for 15 minutes. I hate it when people are late. But since it's your first offense, I'll forgive you, but you're not allowed to do it again. Jinka was a man of few words. To be honest, he was a little nervous. When he faced Bai Qiao in particular, his thoughts couldn't help but return to the moment when they had fused back then. Jinka had never experienced that feeling of floating in the air like an immortal before. He felt his thoughts empty, and even his body became light. In the end, there was only a strange sense of comfort. But Jinka was too embarrassed to express his feelings, and he had spent a long time forcing himself to calm down before coming. Fortunately, the Wang family's fridge had also been enchanted, so before Jinka met Bai Qiao, he deliberately put himself in the freezer for 10 minutes or so. Seeing that Jinka had arrived, Su Xing hurriedly hid himself in the dark and watched from a distance. He knew it wasn't right to be a third wheel, but he couldn't help his curiosity. Similarly, this was the first time he had seen Lord Jinka act like a little wife, and he was very surprised. Can't you smile? We all have the same master. Why do you always look like you're dead? Why do you always have a bitter face? Looking at Jinka, Bai Qiao couldn't help reaching out to pinch his face, but the cold made her draw her hand back as if she had been electrocuted. Why is your body so cold? Jinka was silent. Forget it. Bai Qiao tugged at the corner of Jinka's clothes and dragged him to sit down in a chair next to her. She then manipulated the mouse and keyboard to take a bunch of screenshots on the screen, listing the dozen or so one-star negative reviews that had gone overboard. Although Jinka didn't know what on earth Bai Qiao wanted to do, he already had a vague guess in his heart. Crossing her arms, Bai Qiao stared at Jinka. I'm your scabbard, so as the body of the sword, shouldn't you have a duty to protect me? Jinka cocked his head. He somehow felt that this relationship seemed to be reversed. Shouldn't it be the scabbard that protected the body of the sword? So after careful consideration, he agreed for the time being, and wanted to hear what other strange theories Bai Qiao had in mind. Hey, why aren't you passionate at all? Bai Qiao couldn't help sighing. At a time like this, the right thing for you to do should be to kneel down and announce it to the world. This humble General Jinka is willing to go through fire and water for Bai Qiao for generations to come. That's the atmosphere. Jinka, forget it. You're just like our master, you're both blockheads. Feeling a headache coming on, Bai Qiao rubbed the space between her eyebrows. She had never spoken so much before, but when she was with Jinka, she inevitably became more talkative. She pointed at the bad comments on the screen. I want you to help me get rid of them. Her general intention was actually pretty much what Jinka had guessed. Looking at the screen, Jinka said very slowly, you should look for Wang Ming. There's no point in looking for him. With a wave of his hand in the background, the comments are gone. But aren't these keyboard warriors who randomly give bad comments still living free and unfettered lives? Bai Qiao shrugged. I've already found the address. Given your strength, you can open up a space and travel in an instant, right? I want you to ferret them out one by one, ask them why they gave bad comments, and then apologize. Finally, delete the bad comments for me. If they don't, humph, don't blame me for being ruthless. Want to kill them? Jinka slowly shook his head. Ling won't agree. This bunch of keyboard warriors don't contribute anything to society. All day long, they just want the world to be in chaos. Killing them would be letting them off easy. Of course I won't kill them. I still have a kind heart, and I'm not some devil. Bai Qiao laughed. It's very simple to deal with them. If their attitude isn't good, you can directly send them to Songhai First Prison. Leave the rest to me. Saying this, Bai Qiao smiled sinisterly. As a gaming otaku, while her skills weren't as good as Wang Ming and that Uncle Black behind Odd Shua, they weren't for show. Tracking down these trolls' addresses through online IP addresses was a piece of cake for Bai Qiao. Of course, Bai Qiao's real plan wasn't just to find these people's IP addresses for Jinka to track down. She also used these people's IP addresses to use a crawler to find all the comments this group had posted online. Back when the old devil, master of Immortal Mansion Sheng Yu and evil sword god had been arrested, This group of trolls had been hurling abuse online, clamoring that the cultivation police hadn't done their job well. At the same time, they had also cursed 18 generations of the three Mahjong bigwigs' ancestors. Before Jinka caught these trolls online and sent them to prison, Bai Qiao planned to take screenshots of the comments and show them to the bigwigs in Songhai prison first. Chapter 935. The IP addresses that Bai Qiao had found did indeed have rather outrageous comments online. They all had different professions, some were civil servants, some were ordinary office workers, and some were school students. Bai Qiao had dug up all of their detailed information, except for the color of their underwear. Although they had different professions, ages, and personalities, they had one thing in common: they were all failures. I'll go talk to them first. If they don't admit their mistakes, you can directly fly over, got it? Bai Qiao said as she picked up a spicy strip. Jinka nodded. There was nothing he could do about it. His wife at home was really too fierce, so he could only do as Bai Qiao said. The first person to be investigated had an IP address from Baowan, which was a province in Huaxiu Nation. It was a little special, however, as it was located on a small island across the sea from Huaxiu Nation, and was very close. Since ancient times, it had been one with Huaxiu Nation, and was an inseparable part of it. The coordinates of the IP address were sent by a place called Return Money Games Studio. This game company mainly produced horror games, and because of the popularity of Cultivation Emulator, the studio's producer felt it was unfair and mobilized all of his employees to leave bad reviews. Bai Qiao naturally found the person responsible for this. Return Money Games Studio's boss, Huang Yuliang, 43-year-old Baowan province native, mainly engaged in independent game development. Due to Cultivation Emulator's popularity, he had posted a lot of bad reviews, and Bai Qiao had caught him red-handed. Through the same IP address, Bai Qiao had also discovered other outrageous comments posted online by this Huang Yuliang. This person had actually insulted the leader of a cultivation country. How audacious of him! Bai Qiao couldn't take it anymore, and directly questioned Boss Huang. Today, Boss Huang was still very gloomy and sullen. He was so jealous of Cultivation Emulator's huge success that he was unrecognizable. He also made games, so why didn't he get what he deserved? No. It was all the world's fault. Sitting on the toilet, Boss Huang started to log into his alternate account and curse wildly. He wanted to get involved in the domestic news. What? Another knife attack in the country? It's not safe in the country. It's better abroad. Hurry up and immigrate abroad like me. The air abroad is so good. There's never any smog. It's democratic and free. The moon is so round. He wanted to be a part of the entertainment news. What? Kuan Kuan has become an NBA ambassador? Why Kuan Kuan? I thought it was my Kuan Kuan. My Kuan Kuan is so good. It's an internationally renowned pet dog in Mixiu Nation. How can your human Kuan compare to my family's Kuan from abroad? When it came to social news, he wanted to have a say in it. Sigh, I've said it before. The property prices in our country are expensive, but it's much better abroad. Everything is cheap overseas. Living abroad was the only way to maintain sustainable development. Hurry up and immigrate with me. When it came to lifestyle news, he had to intervene. I already said that there are a lot of fake snacks in the country. Rice is made of plastic. The oil was all gutter oil. I never eat those junk snacks, like potato chips, spicy sticks, crispy noodle snacks. I don't know what they were fried with, but I never touch them. Right after he sent the message, Boss Huang's heart skipped a beat. He sat on the toilet and felt like a pair of dead fish eyes were staring at him from behind. What was going on? Why does it feel chilly? Boss Huang looked around. There was clearly a porcelain brick wall behind him. He was in the studio's toilet cubicle, so why did he feel like he was being stared at? Hey! Boss Huang Yuliang, do you know that the comments you posted online are terrible? You're such a scumbag. In order to make Boss Huang more aware of the mistake he had made, Bai Qiao deliberately asked in a tone unique to Baowan province. In the toilet, Boss Huang felt like he had completely lost the urge to poop. He had clearly been using his phone to comment on the news, but in the end, it was as if his phone had been poisoned. A Macau casino pop-up box suddenly popped up, and it was another person questioning him. Who are you, ho? Boss Huang typed swiftly in the pop-up box. Who I am isn't important, what's important is your inappropriate comments. Do you know that you were wrong? If you were Buji Island, I have 1,000 ways to make you know that you were wrong. Bai Qiao replied. You mountain monkey, you're so lame. Who the hell are you, ho? You only know how to hide behind your screen and curse me? I'm not afraid of you, you lame person. If you have the guts, come out and fight me one-on-one. I'll take on 10 of you. So, you're not going to apologize? Bai Qiao confirmed for the last time. Apologize my ass. Lunatic, ho. Boss Huang was very stubborn. This was the first time he had encountered such an interesting hacker who was actually challenging him from behind a screen. He, Huang Yuliang, had cursed countless people online, and was nicknamed Baowan's #1 keyboard warrior for nothing. Bickering with him was simply courting death. Boss Huang Yuliang chuckled and turned off his phone screen. Just as he was about to wipe his ass, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. He had clearly been in the toilet cubicle just a moment ago, but when he looked up now, he seemed to have appeared at the entrance of a prison, Songhai First Prison. Huang Yuliang looked at the sign and was directly alarmed. Songhai City, wasn't this a very long way from Baowan? How had he transmigrated while taking a dump? But before Huang Yuliang could figure it out, a child in a white robe stared at him with a pair of dead fish eyes. In the blink of an eye, Huang Yuliang had already disappeared. At that moment, an infrared laser swept past Boss Huang Yuliang's eyes in a flash. A short dozen seconds later, a dozen or so men in immortal robes on flying swords descended from the sky. Armed with laser anesthesia law enforcement spirit bullet guns, they surrounded Boss Huang Yuliang. Huang Yuliang was horrified once again. It was actually the Cultivation Police's law enforcement brigade. One of them took out a loudspeaker and shouted at him, the person taking a dump in front, stop and don't move. You've been surrounded by the Songhai Cultivation Police's law enforcement brigade. Boss Huang Yuliang didn't even have time to put on his pants. He immediately raised his hands high in the air with a nervous expression. Why are you arresting me? What crime have I committed? A captain jumped down from his immortal sword and said to Huang Yuliang, you are now officially under arrest for violating the regulations on online public security management for posting comments on an alternate account online in an attempt to split the country. Huang Yuliang raised both hands. You have no evidence. No evidence? The captain smiled. I can name all the alternate accounts you use. Do you believe me? You can't skip ranks to enforce the law. Even if you want to arrest me, you have to do it in Baowan. Wrong, not Baowan, Baowan province. Baowan province. Baowan province. The captain chuckled. After you go in, I'll punish you by writing it down 1,000 times in front of the old devil. Old devil? Huang Yuliang trembled. Old devil, have you forgotten? When the old devil was arrested a while ago, didn't you say he was a teddy in heat? Sogu reading website. Chapter 936. What awaited Huang Yuliang next wasn't the tripartite trial in prison, but the old devil's domestic punishment. Because the Mahjong squad had already joined the atonement class, their final verdict would be delayed. The old devil, the master of Immortal Mansion and evil sword god, had been living in prison for some time, and felt like it was their home. Everyone inside was talented, and they spoke very well. Their daily job now was to raise crops in the prison and help General Bai secretly deal with some wanted criminals. All of this could earn them merit points, and when the final verdict came, they would consider reducing their sentences based on the merit points they had accumulated. There was a saying that it was impossible to work for others, but the three of them had committed too grave a sin, and might have to atone for it in prison for the rest of their lives. But the old devil was an optimist and had a strong ability to adjust his mentality. The prison provided him with food and water, so he could live here for the rest of his life. He just wanted General E to fulfill his original promise to activate the wheel of time and find his girlfriend's reincarnation. This would take time. They were all government agencies, and they knew how to stamp a seal, just like that sloth in Zootopia. Thus, it would take a long time for the process to be approved. The old devil himself even needed to be patient, and couldn't be rushed. Generally speaking, life in Songhai First Prison could be considered comfortable. They worked in the fields at sunrise and rested at sunset. Even if their meridians were blocked, they could still occasionally receive missions from General Bai to deal with a few extremely vicious criminals. They had just been on a mission a few days ago. The target was a rainy night sex fiend who liked to expose his hairy legs and wear a red raincoat on rainy days. This person moved extremely quickly, and with the weather as a cover, a lot of girls fell victim to him, and before they could react, they were already pregnant. When the Mahjong squad found this rainy night sex fiend, the three of them surrounded him. "You. Didn't you already?" The arrested pervert was stupefied, and had never expected this situation at all. But that was a few days ago. The old devil and the others had seen a lot of this kind of people when they came into contact with the dark forces, and catching them would only dirty their hands. But they had no other choice. The road to atonement was long and obstructive. On this day, the old devil and Xing Yu were studying makeup techniques in the special prison cell. Without eyeshadow, Evil Sword God was a weakling on missions, so they had to improve their skills. This request was approved by Warden Liang. Warden Liang gave them a sack of cosmetics, which contained all sorts of things. So many. Untying the sack, the old devil was dazed. "They're all detained by the airport." "I asked one of my colleagues at the airport for them," Warden Liang said calmly. Prisoners were also human beings, and naturally needed some entertainment to pass the time. In addition to playing Fight the Landlord and Mahjong in prison, the old devil and the others were also developing other forms of entertainment for themselves. A good prison three-woman drama was quietly unfolding. However, the Mahjong team consisted of 3 men, and it was their first time putting on makeup. "How do I use it?" Qing Yu asked. The old devil picked out some cosmetics. He had never put on makeup before, but based on his impression of the cosmetics in his ex-girlfriend's makeup bag, he could vaguely tell that they were lipstick, BB cream, eye cream and the like. As he was picking things out, it suddenly occurred to him that of the 3 people in the Mahjong team, he was the only one who had had a girlfriend. "Let's try it first. This is lipstick, put it on him first." "Aren't we practicing eyeshadow?" "It's just for fun anyway, just do whatever you want." After some discussion, the 2 of them started to fiddle around with Evil Sword God's face. Without eyeshadow, Evil Sword God looked like a bullied little wife, and let them do whatever they wanted. A few minutes later, Evil Sword God, who had already put on lipstick, a wig, eyeshadow and blush, officially made his appearance. "I think it's okay," Qing Yu commented. At this level, he's already infinitely close to Sister Charming lips." The old devil nodded. But very quickly, the 2 of them frowned when they realized that the eyeshadow didn't have any effect. Evil Sword God's personality didn't change because of their makeup. "Did I put it on wrong?" Qing Yu's head hurt. "Everything is difficult at the beginning. Let's do it bit by bit." The old devil pinched Evil Sword God's face. "Old Evil is pretty cute like this, don't you think?" Qing Yu stared at Evil Sword God's face carefully. "Old Sheng, just admit it. Do you like old Evil? I can hear your heartbeat." The old devil smiled treacherously. "Heartbeat?" The master of Immortal Mansion was a little bewildered. Indeed, there was a very strong heartbeat in the air, but it definitely wasn't his. Whose heartbeat was it? Just as they were feeling puzzled, the door to the special prison cell was opened. A prison guard escorted Huang Yuliang in and shoved him into the cell. "Yo, another newcomer." The old devil was overjoyed, but when he saw this person's face, his old face instantly darkened. At that moment, Huang Yuliang was so scared that his legs turned to jelly when he saw the old devil and the others. He couldn't even stand steadily, and he kept shrinking back. Don't come over. The old devil, the master of Immortal Mansion, an evil sword god. He was sure that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. What was even more horrifying was that these three people were actually in the same cell. Huang Yuliang's heart raced, and he was so nervous that he almost suffocated. He now deeply regretted the random comments he had made online. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world, so you're the one who said that my venerable self is a teddy in heat? The old devil's indifferent voice melted into the air. It wasn't loud, but it made people shudder. However, before the interrogation was over, Huang Yuliang had already fainted and foamed at the mouth. Qingyu, should I wake him up? The old devil waved his hand. It's fine. There were a lot of people who were sent to us today, and they're all people who posted inappropriate comments online. You can call them keyboard warriors, or water army. As soon as he said this, it seemed that more people had arrived outside the door. These were all keyboard warriors who Jinka had caught by following the internet cable, and were now lined up outside the special prison cell in handcuffs. Even Qingyu was shocked by the commotion. So many people. These people were crying together, tears streaming down their faces as they trembled in fear. There were already 26 of them in front of them, and the number was still increasing. It was the first time that the prison had become so lively. But the number of people was a little too much. In less than 15 minutes, there was already a long line at the door of the special prison cell, and the number of people had soared to more than 100. Qingyu was deeply shaken. So this is an online water army, the old devil snorted and opened the cell door. As he stepped out, all the keyboard warriors knelt down and begged for mercy. We will reflect on this deeply, and obey the governor's orders. Tianjin. Chapter 937. Hearing the title of governor, Huang Yuliang's heart instantly tensed up. His thoughts flew, and in the blink of an eye, cold sweat directly soaked through his clothes. He was so scared that he curled up on the ground and trembled all over. This intense sense of unease made his entire face turn ashen, as if he had lost half his soul. What? Are you familiar with the title of governor? The old devil sneered. The truth was that before Huang Yuliang had been escorted to the special prison cell, Songhai First Prison and Audiobook had already woven a huge net. School would start after the summer break, and during this period, Audiobook had received a direct order from Secretary Sun Dakong to carry out a large-scale network cleansing campaign and punish criminals who used the internet to publish illegal information. So even if Bai Qiao and Jinka hadn't found Huang Yuliang and brought him here, the general administration of 100 schools would still have taken action. No one had discussed this before the operation, but in the end, all the plans coincided. Thus, after Huang Yuliang was arrested, Audiobook swiftly communicated with Bai Qiao and Jinka to have them join the operation. This net cleansing campaign wasn't a simple one. Cyber warfare in the information age was one of the most complicated battles. Those maggots hiding behind screens constantly changed their IP addresses, making it hard for people to find them. As the direct commander of this operation, Audiobook's target was the leader behind the scenes of the 50 million online water army, the governor of the dark network. Based on the current investigation, this person's cultivation wasn't high, but he had relied on the online water army to achieve a high ranking in the dark network, and his code name was Governor. Do you know why I caught you and brought you here? The old devil chuckled and looked at Huang Yuliang. I'm not interested in these small fries outside at all. You've had direct contact with the governor who is ranked 7th in the dark network, haven't you, Mr. Huang? I know, you're the leader of this subgroup. Huang Yuliang's face was alarmed. He hadn't expected the old devil to have even found out about this. The old devil raised his hand and cast a spell on the spot between Huang Yuliang's eyebrows. In that instant, Huang Yuliang actually heard the ticking of an alarm clock in his head. How did you come into contact with that governor? Tell me. The old devil interrogated him. The alarm clock in your head is a timed explosion curse spell. If you don't say anything before it goes off, you won't die, but your mind will be blown to pieces, and you'll spend the rest of your life in a mental hospital receiving electric shocks every day. I don't know anything. Woo. Huang Yuliang started crying. He didn't even cry when his mother died. Huang Yuliang didn't expect that a grown man like him would be scared to tears. Crying counts as time. The old devil sneered. Master of Immortal Mansion Sheng Yu tried to smooth things over. Brother, if you have time to cry, why don't you think about what happened? Huang, if that's all you know, we will. If that's all, I said, we, and, I, of. What you need to know now is that the Viceroy is one of our key targets. He is very important for us to reduce the sentence before we make our final decision. It is also very important for you to reduce the sentence. The old devil said calmly, you have 30 seconds left. Huang Yuliang's mind went blank. He didn't know what to say at all. At this moment, the alarm clock in his mind suddenly rang, scaring Huang Yuliang so much that he instantly blurted out everything he wanted to say. I know. But even for me, I don't have many opportunities to interact with the governor. I bought my position as the group leader, and the inspection of each group is based on performance. The governor would only meet the group leaders with high performance. Only the group leader can see the governor. The old devil sneered and turned back the hands of the alarm clock in Huang Yuliang's head. I'll give you 2 more minutes. Tell me more about buying the group leader. How much did you spend to buy this group leader? 5 million, and a villa in the countryside, Huang Yuliang said in a trembling voice. How much can I earn as a group leader? A large group can have at most 5,000 people. As long as it's managed well and the post's traffic spreads out, it'll be enough. He would be able to recoup his losses in a year. The governor would pay him according to the number of clicks. If you want to be the governor, you have to manage the group well and do a good job first, otherwise you won't be able to see him. I can't wait a year to do a good job. The old devil's eyes darkened. Forget it, what else do you know? Tell me. The previous group leader died from overwork, so I took advantage of this loophole to buy the group leader, Huang Yuliang said as he raised his head in surrender. So, you haven't been a group leader for long? Not long, less than 2 days. The previous group leader died from overwork? Then what was your relationship with the current group before that? I used to be an administrator of that group. After the previous group leader died, I spent money to buy the group leader's account and planned to play 2 roles in the group. An administrator like you dares to pretend to be a group leader? The old devil was amused. No one has ever seen the group leader's face. His account is already mine, everyone just needs to make money online. There are currently 5,000 people in his group, and every one of them is an elite. It's impossible for him to develop without a year or 2. There's a test to become a group leader. If I didn't buy the group leader's account, I wouldn't have passed it at all. What kind of test? The old devil nodded. He knew that Huang Yuliang was ready to spill the beans, so he turned off the alarm clock in Huang Yuliang's mind. The exam papers aren't a big deal, the main thing is that I have to dress in women's clothes, but I'm too ugly. Then you really don't have a chance. The old devil said, let me ask you, before you were caught, did you ever think about the risk of shouting online? No, as a water army and a troll on an online information site, we compete on how our brains react. If we don't bleed, who knows if we'll be targeted? Good, you're right. I have a general idea of the situation now. That is to say, the group members you caught outside actually don't know your identity as the group leader? They've never seen me before. What are the conditions for setting up this group? As long as you pass the group leader test, you can set up a group in a specific area, and the group leader has to be in an internet cafe in a specific area to control the chat group. Then which internet cafe do you want to go online in this group you bought? Crow County in Baowan. I bought the Crow County group leader position. There's only one internet cafe in Crow County, okay. The old devil nodded, then looked at Xing Yu and Evil Sword God. Old Xing, old evil, shall we go to the internet cafe in Crow County? Previous group leader. That's right. Previous group leader. Chapter 938. It was a long distance from Songhai City to Baowan Province's Crow County, but it would only take 2 hours if they took a special passage. Although the old devil trio were currently atoning for their crimes, there were still restrictions on their movements, such as space restrictions. Even if they were ordered to carry out a mission, they weren't allowed to open space tunnels or use space spells to move around. They all had GPS devices on them, which were enhanced spirit shackles that Wang Ming had improved, and could control their power from their terminals. Thus, their true realms were restricted. However, the mission this time was mainly an online information war, which completely relied on their brains. In the familiar escort car, Huang Yuliang was in the middle of the duo. He was covered in a cold sweat and didn't know where on earth he should go. When we get there, you should know what to do. The old devil patted Huang Yuliang's thigh. I know, if I disobey, I'll have schizophrenia. Huang Yuliang swallowed and didn't dare resist. Why did you become the group leader of this water army back then? Xing Yu asked curiously. I opened a game studio, but the games I developed always lost money. I had to make some extra money. Later on, I found out about this channel from my friend, but I didn't even get to sit in the group leader's seat. I didn't even go to the designated group leader's internet cafe before I was arrested by you guys, Huang Yuliang said in fear. That's a good deal. You're making money by investing in the group leader? The old devil laughed. That's not exactly true, Huang Yuliang asked, 3 big shots, has anyone been a group leader before? No. The old devil and the others shook their heads. When a group leader takes office, you have to dress in women's clothing, win over the administrators, and meet the quota. Only after the administrators meet the quota can group members act as keyboard warriors and scold people online. When there are enough posts and enough clicks, the governor will distribute the money. Huang Yuliang said, after receiving this large sum of money, the group leader and the governor will split it 30-70. Why only 70%? 70% is the governor's. 30% depends on the governor's mood. Huang Yuliang said. Wait, isn't this money from the governor? The old devil was puzzled. It is, but it's not the governor's money either. I heard that the governor has people above him. The Internet Water Army was a hierarchical management system. Actually, the members of the group don't get any money at all. Only those who become group leaders and managers will get a bonus. Huang Yuliang sighed and said, there are millions of Internet Water Armies, and the governor is in charge of 50 million people. Group administrators like us are just working for him. Moreover, you must never go against the governor's wishes. If you violate the rules, the group will be disbanded, and if it's serious, your life will be forfeited. When the prison trio heard this, they understood a little. The management system of the Internet Water Army was a little like a pyramid scheme. They were managed by different levels and then developed offline. The governor was not the boss behind the scenes, even though he was ranked 7th in the dark network and held a high position. However, there was another person behind the scenes who provided the funds, and it was very likely that the person was hiding abroad. However, it was not their job to investigate. Even if they knew, they could not do anything about it. At present, the mission that the prison trio had received was to track down this governor and capture him. Capturing the viceroy was the top priority. As for whether there was anyone else behind the governor and whether they needed to arrest him together, that would depend on how many points General Bai could provide to reduce his sentence. In the prison van, the old devil recalled what Huang Yuliang had said just now. The Water Army group administrators under the governor's name were strictly managed. Even logging into the group administrator account had to be done in a designated internet cafe. He realized that going to Crow County to become the new group leader this time might not be so easy. According to what you said just now, in order to earn money as a group leader, I have to deliberately dress up as a woman? Of course, then isn't being a group leader like kneeling and begging? In this world, Who doesn't beg on their knees when they work for someone else? But how many people don't have the means to be a group leader of a water army? The old devil frowned. Then even if the group leader dresses up as a woman? Then why did you say that none of the group members had ever seen the original group leader who suddenly died? The reason is very simple. Most of the members of this group are fans of voice control. The previous group leader's voice was very pleasant. Huang Yuliang said, "When I bought the group leader, the person also gave me a special voice changer that can simulate the voice of the previous group leader. It's flawless." So that was it. Realization dawned on the three people in prison. But since the three of you want to capture the governor, it's very important to win over the administrators and group members. When I go to Crow County to become the new group leader this time, I absolutely have to dress up as a woman. But the three of you. Huang Yuliang's gaze swept over the old devil, Qing Yu, an evil sword god. After repeated investigation, he realized that the only one among the three who had the aptitude to dress up as a woman was actually evil sword god, but he didn't dare speak directly for fear of being beaten up by evil sword god. The shock this evil sword god had caused back then was no less than the old devil's. He had even dared to kill his Shifu, and could be said to be a completely emotionless person. Huang Yuliang knew that if he provoked this person, his fate would also be very tragic. I know what you're thinking. The old devil put his arm around Huang Yuliang's shoulder. You want to see old evil dress up as a woman? Huang Yuliang, I didn't. Men have to be honest. Tell me the truth, do you want to see it? You have to, otherwise the consequences will be very serious. Huang Yuliang looked weakly at the gentle and weak evil sword god, and somehow felt that this evil sword god wasn't quite the same as in the reports. He didn't know what on earth was going on with this evil sword god, but he still spoke his mind in a low voice. I do, you're quite honest. The old devil chuckled. Don't worry, you'll see it. Huang Yuliang, the old devil, because old Sheng and I both want to see it. Huang Yuliang, since the group leader dressed up as a woman could quickly curry favor with the administrators and group members, they naturally had no reason to refuse. For the old devil, this was like begging on his knees, but the problem was that he wasn't the one kneeling. As long as one of the three of them showed up in women's clothing, it would be fine. And it now looked like this person was none other than Evil Sword God. Old Evil? The old devil called out as he turned to look at Evil Sword God, who had nowhere to put his little hands. In prison, apart from playing cards and doing manual labor, Evil Sword God had been beaten up almost every day. The old devil's doting words actually made Evil Sword God shudder all over. Evil Sword God, what are you doing? You'll dress up as a woman later. No, as long as you do, old Sheng, and I won't beat you for 3 days. How about a week, deal? Chapter 939. With the governor as the leader of the Internet Water Army Group, all the group leaders had designated internet cafes to log into, and the internet cafes in Crow County were located very far away. This was just a small county town, and some places had yet to be completely modernized. It mainly relied on agriculture and animal husbandry. Most of the pork used by Jai Yin to fry dragon pork chops was imported from Crow County. In other words, the dragon pig bred in this tiny Crow County had almost poisoned the 10 founding generals to death. When the internet cafe's sliding door was pushed open, many people's gazes converged on a delicate and pretty girl. She was very tall, had fair skin, and had long hair that reached her waist. She looked like she was in love for the first time. What a delicate and pretty girl. He shouldn't be from our Crow County, right? There are only a few pretty girls in Crow County. She might be from another city. Needless to say, a girl from another city looks like a fool. What's your score? 95 points, and 5 points are deducted from my chest. I can't afford an A. As everyone could see, Evil Sword God's cross-dressing plan was quite successful. This was thanks to the dozens of minutes of hard work the old devil and master of Immortal Mansion Xing Yu had put into makeup in prison. Now that Evil Sword God was dressed in women's clothing, he could pass for the real thing. Considering that the governor's spies might be planted in the internet cafe, the old devil and the others didn't act together, and instead sent evil sword god, dressed in women's clothes, to enter the internet cafe alone. However, the prison trio had used my computer sharing center between themselves. In other words, the vision and consciousness of the three of them were shared at this moment. What evil sword god was seeing and hearing now was transmitted to the old devil and evil sword god's minds at the same time. The chat software used by this group of internet water army was an independent software. Huang Yuliang had already told them all the passwords, and the voice changer was in a secret cloud disk that needed to be downloaded. Fortunately, evil sword god wasn't too out of touch with society. His computer skills were pretty good, and he wasn't a noob. For the murder of his master, he had used the Chindu search engine to search on the internet, how to kill your master. In the end, the first 5 pages were all kinds of hidden weapons promotion. Evil sword god still had a vivid memory of the search results from back then. Advertisement: Putin's system consecrated shuriken, only 998 immortal gold. Advertisement: Putin's series gold-plated diamond-studded flying guillotine, 666 immortal gold. Buy one and get 3 great gifts. Advertisement: Putin's system concealed weapons shop. The first charge of 6 yuan will be rewarded with a small dragon saber hanging ornament. At that moment, the old devil's voice reverberated in the shared mental space. Old evil, don't think of her. The mission is more important. Okay. Evil sword god composed himself, and then started to work on the computer. Enter the account number. Password, enter. The voice changer was ready. Then, evil sword god took a deep breath and pressed the enter key. Then, the scene in front of him instantly changed. In the blink of an eye, evil sword god had actually been dragged into a city full of technology. What's going on? Evil sword god was a little bewildered. This development was a little unexpected. Fortunately, the trio's mental space was connected, so evil sword god wouldn't be thrown into confusion. This should be the internal world of that water army. Sure enough, there's something wrong with this internet cafe. They're using their accounts to set up a space channel, and after logging in, the group leader will arrive in another space world. The old devil's voice rang out in evil sword god's mind as he analyzed the situation. With this explanation, it actually made sense that the governor had asked all the group leaders to go to a designated internet cafe to operate the chat group. Evil sword god controlled his demon eye and tried to spread the power of his eyes over the whole world, and the trio took in a panoramic view of this world. This was a small world in an independent space. It was in the shape of an island and surrounded by a spatial spirit sea, very much in the style of a water army. The 3 people from the prison team secretly marveled at this. It looks like there's definitely an almighty operating behind the scenes. Given the governor's strength alone, there's no way he could have reached this level of establishing an independent space, the old devil said. How experienced were the 3 of them? Although their strength was currently sealed, as experts with the battle strength of true immortals, their rich vision and experience couldn't be sealed. The strength of a space spell at this level was obvious at a glance. This was also one of the main reasons why General Bai had decided to carry out the atonement plan for the prison trio. True immortal experts had very few battle resources to begin with, so it would naturally be excellent if they could be of use. For experts, direct execution wasn't a heavy price to pay. When the old devil shared this image with Huang Yuliang in the form of a projection, Huang Yuliang's face was ashen. He was scared out of his wits. This group leader wasn't what he had imagined. He had thought that it would be fine as long as he incited the group members to post in the group. He hadn't expected to be pulled into this independent space world. It's clear that you've been duped. Looking at Huang Yuliang's astonished expression, the old devil said, "You bought this group leader with 5 million yuan and a villa, but it doesn't bring you any value. The design of this world space is a little like a prison. Once you enter, if you can't destroy the core hub, you basically won't be able to get out." I've been duped? Huang Yuliang couldn't believe it. What happened to evil sword god in this small world next further confirmed the old devil's conjecture. Evil sword god had suddenly fallen into this space world in his cross-dressing form. The sudden appearance of such a cute and pretty girl naturally attracted the attention of the people around them. There was something very wrong with these people. Most of them were bald, and they moved like zombies, drooling as they stared at Evil Sword God with hideous smiles on their faces. Evil Sword God's hair stood on end under their stares, and he shouted in all directions, Who are you?" In the end, as soon as he said this, even Evil Sword God himself was startled. Because this wasn't his voice. It was clearly a cute girl's voice effect created by a voice changer. The old devil and Xingyu almost stiffened when they heard this. "Looks like you weren't completely duped. This is a genuine voice changer," the old devil said. Huang Yuliang. The old devil deduced that this voice changer probably wasn't just a simple piece of software, but had been enchanted with a special spell. After the software was turned on, the voice would maintain a special sound effect for a period of time. At that moment, the men in this world surrounded him like zombies. "Cute little girl, why don't you come with us? You can't get out, this is Group Leader Detention Island. Come on, have fun. In any case, there's plenty of time. I never thought that a female group leader would actually fall here." This group of people spoke as they moved toward him. And what shocked the prison trio was, these disgusting men were actually speaking in the voice of a soft girl. It turned out that the group leaders of these water army groups didn't have real women at all. Chapter 940. At the same time, in an unknown mental world, a three-dimensional projection of Group Leader Detention Island appeared in the middle of the screen. Every group leader marked on it was a red, and these group leaders were all in detention. They had been imprisoned on this dark island for various reasons. Some had failed to meet performance standards, while others had exposed key information about their organizations. Although some of them had done so unintentionally, they still had to be punished. This was also the reason why the governor of the Dark Network had been able to shake the world for so many years without falling. "Lord Brain King, it seems that someone has snuck in," said a monster that looked like an octopus in front of a huge computer screen. No one would have thought that this was the real body of the governor of the Dark Network. At this stage, the computer screen and the integrated mainframe had tens of thousands of interfaces, all of which were connected to the governor's tentacles. That was right, the governor's real body was in fact a mechanical octopus. Furthermore, it didn't belong to Earth, and had been completely created by this Lord Brain King it spoke of. The image of a brain appeared on the screen, and a deep and shaky voice rang out. "It seems that someone has already found this place. We're one step closer to our master plan. Now, we must not alert the enemy. It seems that Lord Brain King has long anticipated this." This subordinate was foolish. The people locked up on Detention Island are all the people we've chosen wrongly over the years. They aren't the smartest people on this planet that I'm looking for. But in the end, these people are just losers who can only vent their emotions online. Why is Lord Brain King targeting them? You're wrong. The brain on the screen flickered and said faintly, "There's a bullet message culture in Earth's civilization. This bullet message culture has now become a gathering place for trolls and keyboard warriors. I've long heard that there are kings in the bullet message culture, so I've been working hard. The smartest people on Earth must be among these keyboard warriors. In these few short years, I've had you continuously develop your water army in order to find these smart people. Devouring the wisdom of the smartest people is the foundation of this king's foothold in the universe. Divine Tao Star has devoured so many planets, but my brain clan is the only one that hasn't fallen, because this king's divination skills are far superior to Star Lord's. Your Highness is wise, your subordinate is far inferior to you. Our brain race's star knows that Divine Tao Star Lord is up to no good, so we've been fighting guerrilla warfare for a long time. Now that Divine Tao Star wants to establish diplomatic relations with Earth, Star Lord of Divine Tao Star must also be shocked by the intelligence of these Earthlings. I was going to give up on Earth at first, but now it looks like it'll be a huge loss if I don't find this wise man. But Lord Brain King, I think we might have made a mistake. Perhaps the wisest person isn't among this group of trolls who only know how to send bullet messages and bad comments. Are you questioning this king's authority? The sound waves from the brain on the screen whistled, and a wave of brain waves was released like a pulsing magic ring, causing the mechanical octopus to tremble. "Your Majesty, please calm your anger. This subordinate is slow-witted, let's ignore the intruders for now, but I have a feeling that we'll be able to find the sage soon." Brain King replied, "Also, the mechanical octopus? Brain King, can you stop licking the screen when I'm talking? Even as a qualified bootlicker, your behavior is disgusting," the mechanical octopus said. I'm sorry, my king. I adore my king so much." Brain King, "No, you have to change this habit of licking the screen." As soon as he said that, the image on the big screen switched to a photo of a celebrity. This was currently the most popular little fresh meat on Earth. Not only did he have over 100 million fans, even a casual post on Weibo would be shared over 100 million times. As a male celebrity, his skin was so fair and tender that water could be squeezed out of it. From a distance, one could only describe him as, "How can you tell if I'm male or female? Your Majesty, I was wrong. I won't lick the screen anymore." The mechanical octopus felt like vomiting. In that instant, it felt like it didn't know where to start, and spat out a bunch of screws. Elsewhere, Evil Sword God realized that he was trapped. Detention Island was too scary, full of disgusting fat shut-ins. Although these shut-ins didn't eat his rice, Evil Sword God still felt disgusted from the bottom of his heart. And now, these people were staring at him with hungry eyes as they moved toward him from all directions. "You, don't come over." Without eyeshadow, Evil Sword God had a very timid personality to begin with. Now that he was surrounded by a group of bald and naked fat shut-ins, he resisted. But his voice-changing effect was still there. This directly backfired on him. Some people were already so excited that they had nosebleeds. There had never been a woman among the group leaders locked up on Detention Island. Now that such a beautiful girl had fallen in, they naturally had to protect her in every way possible. "Big sister, come on. Are you trying to reject us? The more you resist, the more excited we get." It was very clear that Evil Sword God had underestimated the lethality of cross-dressing on this group of fat shut-ins. Furthermore, these group leaders had already been locked up on Detention Island for too long. Now that all kinds of emotions had erupted in an instant, it was time for them to vent. Basically, as long as it was a woman, they would be excited. "It looks like old Evil is going to give up his first time here." Inside the prison van, the old devil observed a moment of silence as he looked at the shared image. But at that moment, Qingyu suddenly thought of a very serious problem. "Wait, old Gua, the three of us are now sharing our mental consciousnesses. If old Evil really gives up his first time here, we'll feel the same way when he's being humiliated." Huang Yuliang. F***K. Roused from his reverie, the old devil was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. If Evil Sword God couldn't protect his chrysanthemum on Detention Island, all three of them would suffer. "Old Evil. Hang in there, old Evil," the old devil shouted. He was no longer there to watch the show, and at the same time, his mind was racing to find a way out of this impasse. In the lake in front of him, Evil Sword God was about to be drowned by a group of fat people, and he was like a little white rabbit in a swamp. "Old Evil. Hit yourself with your fists. It's fine if you give yourself a black eye." In this crisis, the old devil came up with a solution. There doesn't seem to be any other way. Hearing this suggestion, Evil Sword God grit his teeth, clenched his fists, and swung them heavily at his eye sockets. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.